Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Eerie International, episode 475 this week. My name is David from the United States.
And I'm Dave from the UK.
And the Daves are back together again for a Underworld installment. That's right. Everyone clamored for this. At the end of last year, we released our first Underworld episode, and the amount of emails we got was overwhelming, where they said two things mainly. One, drop Andi. We don't want to hear from him anymore since he hasn't watched these movies and doesn't have a love and a passion and an enthusiasm for them like the two Daves do. And two, only Underworld content from now on the show. That's all we want. And we are nothing if not sellouts for this podcast. We don't get paid for and only receive currency in the form of emails. So you asked and we answered. Andi's gone, never to come back to the show again. And there are now, 5 more episodes of the podcast, and then we're done. We're only doing as many episodes as there are films. And this is not a lot of franchises would have really milked this cow dry. The Underworld franchise did not do that. They made these films, and they were like, no video games, no tie-ins, no comic books. Technically, there's a comic book bundled with the director's cut of the DVD. I can speak from experience on that one. But no animated series. I'm saying all this as part of the bit, but there might be. I don't I don't remember there being any. But there
genuinely surprised that there wasn't an Underworld video game, because it's a film from they are films from an era where everything got a video game adaptation.
Oh sure. They also feel like movies that could have been adapted from video games too. the other way around.
Absolutely.
So.
Hang on. There may have actually been one. Yes, there was. There was a PlayStation 2 game called Underworld: The Eternal War.
Oh shit! Okay. As I was going ahead with that bit, I was like, I don't actually know if this is true. And it seems
terrible.
Like surprise.
Even for a PS2 game, like it's like they've got big heads. Oh my god, Ooh. This looks amazing. I may have to find
The Eternal War. Is that what you said?
Yeah, The Eternal War from.
I have to look this up.
2004. It's a top-down shooter based on the 2003 action film Underworld. And it's...
Man, this must have been like the exact... So we moved back to America permanently from Brazil in 2004. So this must have been just that like perfect window for me to have missed it. Because there's no fucking way. This is the era that I was watching the first Underworld movie with commentary. Like I was all in. So no way I wouldn't have played it had I known it existed. Or maybe there's a suppressed memory that I did rent it or something, and it was so bad that I scrubbed it from my memory. But that's crazy.
Who knows?
In case anyone is confused or listening for the first time, I already mentioned that was a bit. Andi's out this week because he's been traveling. I won't say where. I'll let him talk about it next week if he wants to. So it was an easy decision when he was like, I'm not going to be in this week if you guys want to do an episode. He actually gave us a nice episode suggestion, Dave. I think you were going to bring that up. Or a title, rather.
Underworld Born Slippy.
Correct.
Which I love as someone who, I'll be honest, Trainspotting wasn't ever a film that I was massively into or bothered by. But the title song by a band called Underworld, I'm explaining the joke for everyone that doesn't get it now, called
Which to be fair, it was me before we recorded, where I was like, I thought it was funny, but I didn't get the reference.
Yeah.
And Dave kindly explained it to me. Although I do think that Born Slippy is, and I'll probably start doing this from now on, is a pretty great Electric Boogaloo style like subtitle that kind of works. I would argue on any film franchise, like National Treasure 4, Born Slippy, like it always just sounds, there's something about the cadence of the word or the phrase that I think always works as a sequel subtitle.
Yeah. We are now just waiting with bated breaths for the fifth or sixth film in the franchise to come so that we can just make this joke.
The one that I think I mentioned this on our first Underworld episode, the one that my friends and I to this day still use is Underworld. I'm liking that, spelled Lycan, obviously.
Nice.
That's our go-to Underworld subtitle. What would it be? It would be the 6th. If they make another Underworld movie, which at this point I'm going to say is probably pretty unlikely. I'm not somebody who is, super big on like talking about celebrities being or looking weird. But Kate Beckinsale's had some strange updates lately. I don't know. I don't see her coming back. I don't want to say coming back like to society, but coming back to this franchise.
No, she's. It's weird, because completely unrelated, a couple of things crossed my desk this week regarding Kate Beckinsale and the fact that she's making kind of straight-to-video style action movies these days. And
Is she?
Yeah, and that all of them are kind of like off-brand DC and Marvel titles.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of them for the life of me right now, but like it's basically like if you took... like Red Sonja, which I know is neither DC nor Marvel, and then you made a movie called Sonja Red. Like this is basically like what they, and like fair play to her. She looks amazing even today, and the fact that she's able to helm these kind of movies and look like she can keep up with the action. Because Hollywood is not kind where it comes to the older women, older actresses.
That's what I mean, though, and that's what I was like trying not to dwell on too much. We can move on because I don't want to make it sound like I'm being critical of her appearance. The stuff I've seen, I saw her post some Instagram stuff not too long ago, and it was one of those things where it wasn't a thing where it was like, oh my gosh, what happened to her? Which you'll see people say online, and usually, fortunately, you'll see a lot of people rush into the replies to be like, she's aging, you stupid fucking asshole. Like, this is how bodies work. This is just human. This is humanity. It wasn't a thing like that. It was one of those things where you see an update from someone and you're like worried about them, where it's like, are they okay? Like they seem unwell. Like that's how these pictures, I'll send them to you later. Like that's how these posts seemed, kind of in the similar vein as like Britney Spears posting stuff. When like dancing with knives and kind of looking strange, where you're just like, is everything okay? Like it was more of that sort of alarming thing of like, what's going on? Like this seems not great, but maybe not. I don't know. We don't know these people or whatever. But anyway, that's all I was really alluding to. It's a tricky thing to bring up though, because like you said, I don't want it to be viewed as being just like critical of her aging or anything, because it's definitely not that. It was more of a thing of like, what's going on? Because she also had a period there where she was like making out with Pete Davidson at a hockey game. I don't know if you remember those.
I try not to keep up with Pete Davidson unless it's a movie that he's in.
I don't know that I really keep up with either of them, but I just remember seeing like, man, two of the most random people I would have picked to be making out at a hockey game.
Yeah.
But anyway, so. Yeah, this is the, if you're listening, this is a horror podcast where normally we don't get into as much celebrity gossip as we just did. That's my bad. But yeah, we are coming back from our holiday break here at the Eerie International offices. They are international offices, by the way. We have 3 of them globally that we keep running at all times.
It's really expensive for a podcast that we have not done anything to monetize.
Yeah. So... yeah, as I mentioned, Andi normally is with us representing the country of Germany. He is out this week, but we'll have him back in his office next week, I believe. But yeah, in the meantime, we'll talk about Underworld Evolution, the second film in the Underworld franchise. Yeah, what else? Just basic housekeeping stuff. You can find us online. We're on all the social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc. And I also just realized I have to turn notifications down a lot in my headphones because I switched to my headphones and someone just texted me and it scared the living shit out of me. It was so loud. So time to switch those. Yeah, what else? Email us longer form thoughts if you'd like. eerieinternational@gmail.com. That's basically it, I think. What else here? Let's get into what we got into. We've got a few weeks here, Dave, that we were off.
Indeed.
I believe I didn't count how many, but I think it was at least 3.
Yeah, possibly.
I didn't get into a lot. Well, I watched some stuff, but most of it was not horror. I will quickly mention I saw Marty Supreme, which I greatly enjoyed. It was one of the best movies I saw in 2025. Snuck in right at the end.
I have questions about this film, if you'll indulge me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the more
as we usually joke, Andi's not here.
Of course.
So-
Yeah, Andy's away, the cats will play. Or the mice. Who cares? Mice or cats,
Yeah, whatever.
It doesn't matter. You know, they're both furry.
Hybrid, a rat morphing
Hybrid
into a
mat
cat animorph style.
Rat cats, yes. So everything that I saw about Marty Supreme prior to it releasing, all of the trailers, all of the material, made it look like a very kind of by-the-numbers biopic of a ping pong player from the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And everything that I've seen in the last week makes it look like fucking Bonnie and Clyde.
Okay.
Which film is it?
So both kind of. It is loosely based off of this guy Marty. I forget his name. Who was a like 50s ping pong player, like great player, hustler. I think he was on some different like talk late night shows and stuff. And my dad knew who he was, so he had some level of fame back then. And basically, they took. It's kind of like. Did you ever watch that Coen Brothers movie? God damn it, what's it called? Inside Llewyn Davis with
No.
Poe Dameron. I can't remember anyone's name today. Oscar Isaac.
Yeah.
I remember his fucking Star Wars name. So it's kind of similar to that in the sense that he's kind of based on a real guy, but then they took other things and kind of looped it in as well. So that movie has more roots in real stuff and historical things than Marty Supreme does. Marty Supreme basically starts off with that conceit, that premise of this being based off of a real dude, and then it kind of then turns into not quite Uncut Gems, but some of the spirit of. So this is the Safdie brothers used to make movies together. They did the movie Good Time. I think it's Good Time or Good Times, and then Uncut Gems and some other stuff too. And then this year was the debut of each of them as a single unit filmmaker. So one of them made The Smashing Machine, the Rock UFC, MMA, I should say, movie, which I liked a lot as well. I thought was really good. And then the other one made Marty Supreme. So it has much more of a Safdie brothers, like very tense. But the movie kind of goes into little by little is like, this thing leads to this thing, leads to this thing, which causes this problem. And then they have to go get the money from this person, which goes to, ends up in the hands of this guy who has a gun. And then they have to escape from him. And then they're stuck in so it's a lot of that sort of like very tense, unraveling of one storyline. And then you've got a protagonist that's, it's weird. Chalamet does a good job. He does a great job, honestly. He's fantastic in the movie of like, I would say he's mostly an asshole. Like I didn't, at least for me, I didn't feel ever like, oh, I like this. Give him a chance. I like this guy. Usually I was just like, oh, you're a piece of shit. But I think like you also kind of know that you are.
Yeah.
And so you still are won over in some senses by his charisma and his confidence and, his bravado and all that kind of stuff. But also it's like a character study kind of movie too, because he's an asshole. Like he's not a good dude necessarily. So yeah, the movie goes to some wild places, as you mentioned already, including Penn Jillette with a shotgun. That was a image I didn't expect to see from
Sign
Penn and
me
Teller.
up, baby. That's all I needed to hear.
Yep. Yeah. And what's his name? Who made Bad Lieutenant? Abel. I'm gonna forget his name.
I'm sorry, but when Andi isn't here, there's no chance.
I know.
I'm
Abel
be able
Ferrara.
to.
Filmmaker
Okay.
Abel Ferrara is in an acting role. It is like fucking to use a $5 word. Is that even the expression? Sumptuous set design. It's very like you can feel how fucking expensive it is. I think it's the most expensive movie A24 has done, and it's a movie about a ping pong player in the 50s. So it's not action set piece heavy, but it is heavy on the style and the set, like the sets and just like ultra. It's one of those movies that like if you're just an average everyday goer to if you're somebody's parents, let's say that's the example I usually use, who like doesn't really care, just gonna go see something at the theater, stuff you probably won't pick up on or care. But if you're people like, this sounds so elitist, but you know what I'm saying. If you're more tuned into set design and craft and filmmate, all that kind of stuff, you're at every turn, you're just going to be like, holy shit, like this looks so good. And the way they did this, like you can feel that it's very, sort of lavish and expensive in a lot of ways. Also a co-star turn from Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank, if you know him, Kevin O'Leary, who's not an actor.
Yeah, Shark Tank is one of those programs that we know of in the UK but don't have access to.
Don't you guys have your own version?
Yeah. It's called Dragon's Den over here.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, but it was good. I liked it a lot. It's not a horror movie, but and then I'll just quickly mention I also saw Avatar: Fire and Ash, the third one. Liked it a lot as well. We talked about this a little bit off air, you and I and Andi, but just nobody does spectacle like Jim Cameron, and that was the case again. So had a lot of fun with that, and just kind of being in that world. They're not mind-blowing movies in some ways for sure, but if you're on board, the thing that I don't understand, dude, and we were talking about this after the movie, me and Austin and Sean, like I don't understand how or what it is about this franchise that makes people so pumped to see them, because we have tons of sci-fi franchises. I don't want to say that we have tons of them that are like Avatar, but there's not necessarily a thing about Avatar that's totally different than other things. And in fact, a lot of people critical of the franchise will say that there's a lot of things that are already like things we have. So I don't know what it is about these fucking tall blue cat aliens, but this movie has already made over $1 billion, and it's the third one. Like, people love these movies and go see them, even though the internet discourse and everything you'll see a lot of times is very negative and people talking shit about them. They make, and this is a James Cameron thing in general, like his movies make tons of money anyway, and that's, one of the things he's known for. I think 3 of the top 10 highest grossing films of all time are James Cameron movies. So like it's, and I think all 3 of them are Avatar movies. So
that makes sense.
It's nuts, dude. Like I don't understand it at all, because to me, in a lot of ways, like Predator Badlands has on some elements just as good, if not better, representations of some of these things or ideas, but for whatever reason this dude knows how to tap into a global audience. That's the thing that's crazy to me too. It's not just domestic. Like it makes money, tons of money all over the planet, and it's very strange. I mean, it's cool, it's fun, it's awesome. I'm glad they do well. I mean, the dude's old now. I would imagine he's kind of waffled back and forth a little bit now on whether or not he'll do more. But
yeah, he said some
nuts.
He said some shit, hasn't he, about how nobody reads anymore, which I couldn't disagree with more. I think when you've got a company like Barnes and Noble opening like several dozen bookstores in 2026, I
would agree with Cameron on this one.
Do you really? Okay.
At least in the US, yeah. It's the amount I've told you I've been dating, by far the amount of interest I've got, and if I had to cycle it down into one area, has been the fact that I read. And I've had multiple girls tell me that, to where it's like I've never met a guy on here who reads and is like into reading. Like at least with like I could zero it down into maybe it being a local, regional, gender, whatever thing too, but like that's a common thing I see quite a bit, is people talking about. But to your point, I don't know about like sales and stuff like that. Like that might not be reflective, but at least for some aspects of that's one of the reasons I push it with Daniel so much, because it just feels like, and you can feel it from his teachers too. They like are desperate for kids to read, because they don't do it as much. Anyway, that I'm like passionate about this on the side, so that's why I jumped in. I'm not trying to necessarily disagree
of course,
with you.
Yeah, it's just when I look at things, because obviously I haven't got my finger on the pulse of how reading is doing in the US. I know in the UK certainly bookshops are having a hard time of it, but I often put that down to the fact that online places like Amazon, the irony that Amazon was originally an online bookstore, and I'm actually talking about it in its original use now. The online book sales are far outstripping physical book sales, which is having a knock-on effect to physical bookstores. But when I see news about the fact that, like I said, like Barnes and Noble apparently are going to be opening a lot of new locations this year, I'm not one to say that people that own businesses are the be-all, end-all, know-it-alls of how something is going, but I feel like you wouldn't open a shitload of new locations unless you were confident that you were going to be able to keep them going.
Yeah.
And there's a litany of places like Woolworths and C&A down the years that will prove me completely wrong, and even some big names like Debenhams in the UK that will prove me absolutely wrong. That yeah, we will open places if there's no market because we're fucking idiots. But it just kind of feels like if things were as bad as his comments kind of were pointing towards, then I don't think that there would be big bookstore businesses looking to open extra locations. I will look back on this comment in a year and think to myself, "Oh, you sweet summer child, what were you thinking?" But I do, I I would like to see what the end of his story was going to be. So hopefully, I mean, who are we kidding? This third movie is going to make bank. They're going to make more because the studios love money, and a James Cameron movie is always going to make money. I think that's part of it. James Cameron is not a bad filmmaker at all. I would put Avatar squarely in the kind of big, spectacular, visual, stunning movie that doesn't do anything to knock your socks off plot-wise category, along with quite a few other movies from Zack Snyder. Like,
Sure.
I feel like at times, and this is blasphemy, so, don't come for me, everybody. I feel like maybe James Cameron is like Zack Snyder with better PR and a track record of making some really decent movies that have got him a little bit of leeway with people, because there's nothing particularly original about Avatar where it comes to the story itself. Many people, including my friends on Gen Animation, have said multiple times, I think I said this actually, that it's basically Fern Gully with big blue cat people. It's an environmental story. It's a mishmash of a lot of different things, as a lot of movies are. Star Wars being like the preeminent example of something that took a bunch of other stories and mashed them together and made something fun and new. But ultimately, like, I've been to watch the first two Avatar movies, the first one twice, the second one I think twice as well. And the main reason was because I saw them once in 2D, once in 3D. And for me, it's an event movie that you go and watch because you want to see what mad shit he pulls out the bag this time. And that's where the success of those movies, I think, comes from. People want to be wowed and they want to have that feeling of going to a big blockbuster movie. And I'm not sure that you necessarily get as many of those these days outside of the MCU, although dare I say those don't feel like blockbusters and haven't done for a while because of the fact that they're just so commonplace. Like, there's 2 or 3 a year plus the TV shows now, and everything feels and looks the same. I'm taking up your time here, David, and everyone else's, but yeah, it does kind of feel that way. But as we said in the chat, I just want Cameron to keep making movies so that he can keep inventing new technology that other people can kind of pick up the ball and run with. Because he is nothing if not an inventive soul who has maybe not, 3D isn't his invention. 3D was around a long time before James Cameron. It will be around a long time after. But he definitely drove this kind of early 2000s renaissance of 3D movies, and was, if not directly responsible, he was definitely one of the movers and shakers in the background, kind of pushing the technology forward. I know better than to say this director, on his own, invented a new 3D process. It's like, no, there were probably a lot of people who knew what they were talking that were working with him.
Dude, if there's a director who I would be the most confident in saying something like that, it would be this guy. So
yeah,
just because you hear that pretty consistently, that he does stuff to push forward, and also you hear about, even with his own movies, where it's like he had the idea for Avatar and like the script treatment or whatever in like the late 90s, but was also just like, this can't exist yet. Like the technology doesn't exist yet.
He did the same with Battle Angel Alita. He's owned the rights to an adaptation of that for probably as long. And was it him? Yeah, it was Cameron, yeah. And there was constant rumbles about, is he going to do it? Is he finally going to do it? And then eventually he just decided he couldn't do it himself, but he stuck himself on as producer and he let someone else do it. And the technology was sufficiently to the point where they were able to make a really fun movie that both of us, I think I'm right in saying, would really love to see revisited at some point.
Oh, man.
yeah,
So badly.
yeah.
Yeah, I loved that movie. I remember Sean, the same friend I mentioned earlier, Sean and I, we went and saw that in the theater, and the opening, I've only seen the movie once, and it was in the theater, so I need to rewatch it, because I bought it when it came out. Like, I was super into it. But it might not be the opening shot, but I know it's definitely at the beginning, where it just opens on her eye opening, and us both having the same sort of reaction of like, holy fucking shit. Like, it looked so good.
Yeah.
Like and I don't know how well that particular shot is held up now, but just the level of detail and everything. And obviously that was a Cameron like adjacent movie. Robert Rodriguez directed it, but even then, like, just the level of technical stuff going on in it.
It does
so
hold
cool.
up. I watched it not too long ago, and I still I'm not the most neutral person to talk about this, because like Alita is one of the gateway animes that got me into the whole anime thing. It was on late night on Channel 4 once, and I was like, I don't know what this is, but I love it. And I found out years later what it was, because I found it on YouTube. But it was definitely like one of the first anime that I ever saw that got me into the whole side, that entire side of animation. And yeah, like, it just, the CG, everything, just, it works. And it's I've talked about this before. I can't remember if I talked about it on this show or on Generation Animation, but I think that one of the really clever things they do with Alita's design in the movie, in the live action movie, is they avoid the uncanny valley by making her eyes just big enough that you know that she's not human, but they're not comedically big. They're just the right kind of scale that you can believe that she's some sort of robot.
And it's the only time I can think of where it happened a little bit with Grand Theft Auto 5 in a similar way, but not exactly the same way. It's the only example I can think of where I saw her, Alita, as portrayed by Rosa Salazar, I believe is her name, before I ever saw Rosa Salazar. And whenever I see the real Rosa Salazar now, I'm like, she looks weird. Like, she doesn't. She's beautiful. Like, she's a very normal looking person. But it skewed it for me to where I was like, you're Alita, but also something's wrong.
Your eyes aren't big enough.
it's the weirdest phenomenon.
I get that with Trevor all the time.
That's what I was going to say with 5, with Trevor.
The actor that plays Trevor was in a couple of seasons of The Walking Dead and a few other things at that time. And actually, I saw a video of the guy that played. I
was gonna say the Michael, I think is his name, like Italian dude.
Yeah. Basically, he's a massive online gamer, and people keep swatting him, or whatever the term is. You know, when people call the police on you, and literally, it got to the point now where he was playing a game, and like he said something really unfortunate to whoever he was playing in game. Something about popping someone in the head or something, and then he notices that there's a guy standing next to him. You can see the police in the background walking into the room. He turns around, he's like, "Oh, just a minute, guys, I've got to say hello to my friends." And he takes his clothes off, and he shakes their hands, and he's like, "Hi, guys, I guess they called you again. I'm really sorry about this."
Did this just happen, like, within the past week or two, maybe?
I think possibly,
semi-recently?
Yeah.
Because I think I saw this headline and didn't realize it was the dude who voiced Michael. I didn't click on the article, but I saw this exact thing you're talking about.
And it's just so chill, because it's quite clear that it's happened so many times at this point that it doesn't. It's water off of his back, and they've probably got regular police officers that go to his house because they know exactly what's going on, and they're just like, "Well, we have to do this," but it's basically an excuse to shake someone's hand and have a coffee or something.
Right.
It's just mad.
Yeah, no, and with voice actors like that, it's always a weird, uncanny thing where, like, you hear the voice coming out of a person that you don't necessarily recognize or whatever, but when they look, especially mocap stuff, when they look like the person, but it's slightly different, that's your brain doesn't really know how to process it. Like, it's just something it's like reverse uncanny valley in a way, because it's a real person.
Yeah, all three of the leads in GTA 5 were mocapped, and the design of the characters was based purely on the actors. So yeah, it's just kind of weird seeing a slightly older, slightly plumper Michael.
Right. Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
All right. Really quickly, also mention this week. In fact, I saw 2 horror films in the theater. I
Ooh,
went and
you posh
saw.
bastard.
I went and saw a film called We Bury the Dead, which I had heard good things about and had wanted to see. This stars Daisy Ridley in a film I had not. I don't think I'd seen her since Star Wars. She's been in other stuff, but it's always looked not great. So I, I mean, I have yet to see something where I was like, I want to see that. This was one. The other big part of this one for me was it was written and directed by Zach Hilditch, who we have talked about on the podcast, at least once. He's Australian. He did a film called These Final Hours that I liked quite a bit. This was like 13 years ago at this point. That, in fact, it was kind of the inception point of our podcast was when I 1 month in October, probably then 2013, 14, watched one or more horror movies every day for the month of October. That made me realize I was much more of a horror fan than I thought initially, and led to me reaching out to you guys to start the podcast. And Andi was recommending different horror movies to me throughout the month as I would post them on Facebook, stuff I'd watched. And this was one, These Final Hours, and liked it quite a bit. And then years later, in 2017, he did a film called 1922, which we did on the show. That was the Stephen King adaptation with Thomas Jane. Do you remember this one, Dave? They're like on a farm.
Yeah.
Kills his wife or something. I don't remember exactly all of it.
It
But
it was Netflix, wasn't it?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure we enjoyed it. So this is his new film, starring Daisy Ridley and also Brenton Thwaites, I believe is how you pronounce his name. A guy who in this film is not unrecognizable. He's got some facial hair and long, like shoulder length hair, but his character is so at odds with the kind of characters that I've seen this guy play. So he played Robin in that Titan show that they did not too long ago that I want to say was on HBO Max or something. It's the one that when the trailer came out, there's a part in the trailer where he as Robin is like, fuck Batman. We were all like, what the fuck is this? Like, it was such a weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he usually plays kind of like a clean cut, like handsome, not boyish, but like, kind of earnest sort of dude. He was also in the movie Oculus, the Mike Flanagan movie with the mirror. He's the brother in that, along with Nebula. I can only remember character names. Karen Gillan.
Yeah.
And in this movie, he plays like kind of a cynical, jokey, crude asshole guy. He was good in it, but mostly it's Daisy Ridley. I'm talking too much about this movie that I liked but didn't love. It's not bad. In fact, in a lot of ways, I thought it was good. The thing I liked the most about it is also kind of the thing that made me, pull back from loving it, which is it's a drama horror blend. And I would say it's like 70% drama and 30% horror, somewhere in there. The horror's definitely there. It doesn't feel like restrained in that way. It's just much more of an emotional sort of dramatic story. It's got a great premise. They're in Australia, Tasmania, whatever. There's this, I think it's in Tasmania specifically. The U.S. government has been testing like some sort of like not nuclear, it might be nuclear, I can't remember, but bioweapon type shit. There's an accident, it explodes, it kills a bunch of people immediately in the blast radius or whatever, but then the shock waves of it, if it hits you, you just die. Like it hits your nervous system and you're done. You just fall to the ground dead. Okay. And so it kills a ton of people. So Daisy Ridley's character, her husband, was down in Tasmania. Unfortunately, there's a line at one point where someone says, "Come to Tasmania," and my mind immediately, after a 30-plus year gap, would come to Tasmania. So that was a weird moment in the theater. But he's there for work, and so she everybody's dead. No one survived, but she volunteers. There's people that are going basically to the island from all over the world to help because there's just bodies everywhere. So it's like body retrieval sort of stuff where they're going into houses, finding bodies, getting them out into the streets, identifying them, etc. As they're going down there, there are rumors that some of the bodies are starting to come back to life. and they're not coming back to life in a zombie sense necessarily, or definitely not in a like, oh, hey, we're back. We just went into like a weird coma, but it's like they just are kind of standing there or looking around, but there's nothing there. So what they're supposed to do is if they see a body that's come back, they have these flares that they light, and then someone from the military will come over and shoot the person in the head and kill him for good. So I think there's the implication I got was that she's also kind of hoping maybe he'll come back to life and there's something that she can communicate with him in some way. So we see her journey of trying to get there. Throughout the film, we are also getting flashbacks to their marriage, their wedding, post-marriage, things that start to fill in different gaps, and you get more context for why she's trying to get there. And yeah, I would say it's a good movie. It was one of those that I watched and I was like, oh yeah, I liked that. I liked how there was this blend of drama and horror. I thought she was good. Brent Thwaites dude, I thought was good. Like it's well made. It's also one that it's like, at least for me, I'm like, I watched it and I got it. Like I don't probably ever need to watch it again. Maybe 20 years from now, I'll be like, oh, I remember this, like kind of liking this movie. Let me watch it again. And that kind of seems to be, at least with horror fans, the similar reception I've seen on Letterboxd and stuff. People I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, and like that's kind of the consistent score I keep seeing. To where it's like, yeah, it's well made, but it's not necessarily going to blow your mind. But still, I would say, maybe not worth running to the theater to see, but worth a watch when it hits streaming or whatever else. The other one, and this is a good example of scores being relative, because it's another movie that I also gave a 3 out of 5, but I enjoyed a lot more, and that is a film called Primate. Have you seen anything for this movie, Dave?
Oh, this is the movie that when I saw the trailer, I said, "Oh, someone saw
Cujo
Up and not Up. What was the
Up?
Oh God damn it! It's not Us. It's not them. It's the other one. Nope. Someone saw Nope and was like, "There's more to do with the monkey story."
It's weird. I told Daniel, my 9-year-old son, when I was driving him to school on Friday, that I was going to go see this movie about a monkey that kills people, and he was like, "Haven't you already seen that movie?"
Yep.
And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he was like, "The one you have a shirt of." And I unzipped my hoodie, and I was like, "This one?" I was wearing my Nope shirt.
There you go.
And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "No, this is." But yeah, I see why you made that connection.
Yeah.
So this is more. So what I had heard the comparisons be more lined up with was Cujo, because this is a movie about a chimp named Ben who gets rabies and starts going aggressive and killing, attacking these kids at this house. And this is by Johannes Roberts, this dude's got an interesting career. He's made a lot of movies that range from bad to okay to not great, but people like it. He's never really had one that's like really hit, at least for me. 47 Meters Down's probably the biggest one that I feel like people really resonated with. He did the second Strangers movie, which is not good, but has an amazing fucking scene in it that I've rewatched many times. He also did the newer Resident Evil movie that was after the ones that you and I did. Welcome to Raccoon City. Yeah. Didn't watch it.
I did.
Did you watch it?
Yeah, it was all right.
Sounds like a Johannes Roberts movie. Yeah. So, no shade on this guy. I've always liked him on podcasts. He seems like a genuine, fan, and like he seems like a cool guy. But this might be my favorite of his movies. It's still a 3 out of 5. It's still not, a mind-blowing movie. But the thing that I really liked about it is that I've never seen or read Cujo. I obviously know the story and know it, pop culture-wise, everything else. But it is the key for me that turned it from being what I've expected to be like an animals run amok movie or whatever, to something cooler and better, was that it is done like a fucking slasher. So this monkey, this fucking chimp, dude, he's a chimp. I'm calling you dude. He's like Jason in this movie, both in terms of like personality and intent. So the kills are shot like a slasher movie. Like the movie, it has all this practical gore effects. The movie opens with a dude trying to give him a shot, this like vet. The scene happens and then we go 36 hours prior and catch up to that point. This vet's trying to give him a shot, and Ben pulls him into this enclosure in the dark. And then we get a shot where all we can see is the guy's face in light. We see the monkey hand grab part of his cheek and then rip his face off. Oh. And I was immediately just fucking cackling in the theater, like, and not in a creepy serial killer way, but just that like fun, horror movie fan way that you would laugh at like a Terrifier movie or whatever, because it is so shocking and visceral. And that's the tone of the movie. It has this like awesome 80s John Carpenter. I mean, no, I shouldn't say it like that. It's kind of shitty to the composer. I thought it was a good score, but it's like very clearly inspired by John Carpenter, like synth score. Shot really well. It's funny. The script is pretty, I don't even call it weak. It's a lean, like 89, 90-minute movie. Does exactly what it says it's going to do. You show up to see this this fucking chimpanzee kill a bunch of kids, and he does. So like I had no complaints with it. There were times throughout the movie that the dialogue, like there's a part where they're trying to find, they left one of the cell phones inside the house. This is in the trailer. A big part of the movie is that they have a pool that they get into because he's got rabies and he's freaking out about the water, so he won't get in the pool. So they know that one of their cell phones is in the living room. So two of the girls at one point sneak out of the pool. Ben's not there. They are trying to get into the house. They walk into the living room and they're looking around for the phone. And one of them has a very dramatic reading of like, it's got to be in here somewhere. And it's like, yeah, no fucking shit. Like we know it is. We all know that too. There's a lot of moments like that. I'm being kind of nitpicky, but there's a lot of moments like that with dialogue where it'll be like one character leaves and then she's screaming and you can hear Ben screeching. And they're like, that's Emily's voice. It's like, who the fuck else would it be? There's no one else at the house. So, and she just left. Like, so there's a lot of stuff like that where it's kind of eye-rolly and you're just like, gee, okay, was this the first pass you guys had at this dialogue? But again, in the same way that you'd watch a Friday the 13th sequel, like you're not there for the dialogue. You're there for the kills and, the intensity and everything else. And this movie had it. Like, we were laughing pretty much throughout, and the way that they did Ben in the film I thought was really smart. There's probably some CG in there in places, but it's mostly a performer in a suit and some like I would imagine some, I don't know if it would be animatronics, but like some specific stuff for the face, the way that the face would move and stuff, so it's not just a stiff mask.
Yeah.
But maybe it's CG on the face. I'm not sure. To me, it all looked good. Like you can tell that it's not a real chimp, but also at the same time, you're pretty relieved it's not, because I'm sure that would be terrifying to shoot a horror movie with a killer chimp with a real one. So it's I don't know, man. For me, it worked really well.
Movies, like
yeah, I know, dude. Like. So I had a lot of fun with it. It's if you're in the market for a violent, gory like slasher movie with a monkey, and I'm probably using some of these ape-related terms wrong.
So, is this generation's Freddy versus Jason going to be Primate versus Good Boy?
Oh man, that'd be great.
Yeah,
just monkey versus a dog.
Yeah, I'm on Team Dog.
So it was fun. The only other thing I was going to mention, I watched I watched the Stranger Things episodes as they came out. I mentioned some of those on the podcast in prior episodes, and the finale aired while we were on the break. And dude, I don't know if it's a generational thing. I don't know if it's a generational thing. I thought the finale was not only fine, I thought I had a ton of fun with it. Yeah. I had a ton of fun with everything. I thought season 5 overall was the weakest of the 5 seasons, but I still enjoyed it. Like I think my relationship to Stranger Things has always been pretty casual, and I've always been like into it and knowing like it's not a subtle show. It wears its influences on its sleeve. It's doing very specific stuff. And in my opinion, the amount of people, and it seems like it skews younger, that got so fucking wrapped up in thinking that there was going to be all of these twists and reveals and fake outs and deaths and stuff that the show has never done in any of its seasons, has turned it into, for a lot of people, this Game of Thrones level ending whiff that I'm just like, do you motherfuckers not remember when I wasn't even watching Game of Thrones when it came out, but I remember how consistently and widely hated it was. And it wasn't just the finale. Like, it was the last season or two where people were like, something's different now. Like, this isn't what we've been enjoying or whatever. Like, it is not even close to the same thing. So for me, it was a positive. It was a win. I enjoyed it. Again, there were moments in it where I was like, that's not very subtle or whatever else. But then I'm also looking at pretty much every season of the show, and at different times had the same similar thoughts. Like it's just what the show is. And so, yeah, I have seen some reasonable takes and heard from people who have said, I didn't enjoy it, but also this is on me because I got way too wrapped up in the fan theories and everything else that were going to happen. And I need to rewatch it just kind of on its own terms, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, I'm sure you saw too, like the amount of people that thought 4 days ago there was going to be a secret finale that premiered a week after. And it's just like, holy fucking shit, guys. Like, it is a TV show. I get that I've had pieces of media that are super important to me in a way that I think the show was for people too. So I get it on that level, but also like, this isn't the last TV show you're ever going to like. Like there's going to be another thing that comes along that you're going to be into.
I think, and I am obviously his number one apologist, but I think that the Snyder Cut has got a lot to answer for in that regard. Because people were like, well, if we complain and stamp our feet loud enough, maybe we'll get the thing that we want. And that's not true. That's not how storytelling works. And I'll do you one better. Because I've not seen season 5 of Stranger Things yet. I did talk to my Dungeons and Dragons group yesterday about it, and they all were kind of in the same boat as you. And they were like, to be honest, it probably feels like it went on a season too long. The Duffers probably started believing their own hype a little bit, but they were generally like, it's fine, like they were just glad that Steve got to hang around for more than one season, because something I didn't know was that apparently he was meant to die in like the first season or the second season or something. So the fact that Steve remains the fucking best character because he actually has character growth and shit. But I'll do you one better. I'm going to go back to the Game of Thrones thing. I think if the people that really went off the deep end about the mother of dragons and how she went batshit crazy, you weren't fucking watching the show properly. You weren't paying attention, because if you actually watch the show and you pay attention to the whole story of her family and how they all went fucking mad, and it's not a genetic thing, it's a power thing. Her family were all powerful people, and power corrupted them, and you could see her being corrupted over the course of however many seasons of TV Game of Thrones was. She started as this wide-eyed, innocent girl, and by the end of the 7th season, she'd poured liquid gold over her abusive husband. She'd killed a bunch of slavers. Not saying that's necessarily wrong.
Brother.
Oh, he deserved it. But my point is, she went from wouldn't say boo to a goose to I'm going to turn you into a brass statue because you wronged me. Yeah. And riding her dragons and incinerating innocent people who just happen to be living in the wrong side of town. It's like...
it's like people get so wrapped up in their expectations of what they want it to be or of what they think it has to be.
That. Yeah,
I understand it too, but like
you're
it
allowed
definitely...
to be disappointed.
Oh, sure. And it definitely like got to some places, I think, for some people. Like, I don't know what it's like in the UK, but I have met people who named their kids Khaleesi, like their daughters.
Oh, there's a lot of Khaleesi's and Daenerys
or Daenerys
around the world, yeah.
Yeah, like it's... And so I'm sure for those people, they were upset that it ended the way that it did because they got... so invested that they named their fucking kid after it. I called my son Adolf in 1931. I thought it was a great name. What a bad thing, yeah. Like... But it's also one of those things, too, where, man, I don't know. I don't begrudge anyone for being passionate about something. I think that I think it is a great example of the danger of getting to the point where, because, like you said, we now have multiple times, too, where creativity has bent the knee to fan reaction or fan expectations or fan... desires. I mean, it's, in my opinion, the reason why the Star Wars sequel trilogy is as fucking disjointed and in my opinion, horrifically ended as it did. Oh, because they made The Last Jedi and people fucking freaked out, and then we get somehow Palpatine has returned. Like,
well, that was always...
suddenly we get... Sorry. So it's... Yeah,
that was always going to be the problem when you had more than one creative vision on what was meant to be a cohesive trilogy of movies.
Well, and I honestly think, yes, I agree with you there, but I also think like it could have worked in a, like, even doing it that way, it could have worked if we would have I had this conversation with somebody earlier this week, like having fan stuff bleed into, like, I think that stuff should be completely separate. I think like listening to fans and hearing what they're liking and what they're not liking isn't necessarily wrong. It can help help you determine, like, okay, here's something that the two of us, using the Duffer Brothers, for example, like, we absolutely love this idea or this character. No one else does. Like, maybe we can adjust it a little bit so that it's not as much of a focus, even though that's what, we like. Like, we can make concessions there. Like, something like that might be beneficial.
Yeah.
But the idea that you course correct an entire thing
that's
for the fans.
Too far, yeah.
And also, to me, dude, it's like, it's immediate. I am so less interested in art that's dictated by that kind of stuff. Like, I would rather it be something that doesn't resonate with me and I don't like what they did and it feel like their decision and it just didn't work for me personally. That's so much easier for me to be like, I didn't like how they did this, or wasn't really my bag, as opposed to something like Rise of Skywalker, which is just like, oh, fucking Chewie gets a medal. Like, all that kind of stuff where it's like, I know what this is. And it is so empty to me. There's nothing here of actual creative artist. It feels, it's not AI, but it feels close to something like that, where it's just like, I'm giving you prompts, now give me what I want. Give me my fucking virtual cake that I've commissioned you to bake for me.
Yeah.
Like, that's not how I interact with art, dude. Like, in fact, that's like, the older I get, the more weird shit I seek out in all mediums, because I want to be, I want my like preconceived notions or opinions or whatever else to be challenged, because there's growth there. It leads to liking more and new and different things. It leads you to finding out what influences might have impacted something that, was part of why it resonated with you. Like, there's all these aspects to it. Having it be done by fucking Reddit committee, to me, is just soulless.
Yeah.
And so,
anyway.
Anyway.
You get into the realms of the old adage of a camel is a horse designed by committee, which
Right.
if you live in the desert, that's a great thing to have. But anywhere else, like, camels aren't really ideal for what you're doing.
And fan stuff too. Like, I get that studios have recognized the importance of listening to fans to a certain degree, because before 2008, we didn't have superhero, like, comics and all this kind of shit. Like, it wasn't ridiculed like it was in the 90s or earlier in a lot of ways, but it wasn't cool. And I graduated high school in 2007. I read comics. I didn't know anybody else that read comics. I wasn't bullied for it or made fun of or anything, but it just wasn't a popular thing.
Yeah.
Like, the studio seeing the value of, like, okay, when we adapt these things that already have this following and people that are passionate about it, they'll show up. Like, okay, that's a valuable lesson to learn. But when you start getting their opinions and then forming things around it, that's where it's like, well, none of these people. There was a thing recently. Do you remember those horror documentaries called In Search of Darkness that came out in the past 10 years or so? I've watched one or two of them, and they're usually pretty good. Every once in a while, you'll have a talking head person in there that fucking sucks, and they show up a ton, and you're just like, oh, this is dragging this documentary down. But they're like reaction kind of talking head, sort of like, and then remember this horror slasher movie from 1986, whatever. So they're fun. They're easy to watch. That company, I remember at one point, they might still be doing it. They were launching a thing where it was like, it was like crowdfunded everything. So they crowdfunded, like, and voted on, like, the scripts, and you choose which script you like and then which director you want them to hire, and people can vote and pledge and all this kind of stuff. And it's one of the only times I've ever done this, where they sent out a questionnaire via their email subscription thing, and they were like, let us know what you think about these things and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, I've got some opinions about this. I'll answer this, which I've never done. But I wrote a bunch of shit on there where it was like, this, to me, is the absolute worst way to create art. Like, having these people that are artists, are writers, directors, producers, special effects people, whatever. I do not give a fuck what this dude on the internet thinks it should be. That guy doesn't have this job for a reason. Like, he's not somebody, or he or she, whoever, is not qualified, doesn't have the experience. Their experience is watching. It's basically Beavis and Butthead. They're watching something on TV and reacting to it. I don't care about their opinion. It's the same reason that test screenings for me have always been, I'm not a filmmaker, but like from an outside perspective, have always been a mixed bag, to where it's like, okay, if they showed John Wick 3 to, you know, a 47-year-old dad, dad that would probably work well. Let's say 47-year-old mom, they pulled in off the street, whose favorite movie is Fried Green Tomatoes, which is no shade. I love that movie too. But that person's opinion about John Wick 3 holds very little weight for me.
Yeah.
Not because their opinion doesn't mean anything, but like, that's not who I like. Odds are they're going to be like, it was too loud and too violent. Two things that for me would be what I want out of a John Wick movie.
Yeah.
So having this kind of committee thing, I wrote all this shit in that questionnaire. And then like, I don't know, 2 weeks later, they sent out an email that was like, a lot of you had a lot of opinions about this. And I was clearly not alone in saying a lot of this stuff, to where they were like, you know, we're going to be more specific in how this is handled and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. I mean,
I unsubscribed after that, because I was like, I'm not interested in this bullshit. But
first things first, like these guys need to name their production company Middle of the Road Productions, because that's all they're ever going to fucking get.
Yes.
Second of all, if they had some sort of test screening for John Wick, we wouldn't have a fucking John Wick franchise, because the dog wouldn't have been murdered.
Oh yeah, totally.
So, you know, you have to trust creatives. As you're saying, you have to trust creatives to deliver their vision. There is nothing wrong with testing the temperature and being like, this is the direction that people would like to see things go. For example, Superman being bouncy and fun and saving squirrels, and, you know, like that kind of thing is not a bad thing to test the temperatures and be like, this is the direction that we think we should go. As long as you've got a creative in charge who is happy and comfortable to take it in that direction. When you've got something like Game of Thrones or Stranger Things, just to bring it back around to what we were talking about to kick this all off, whether or not the Duffers are telling the truth when they say that they knew what the ending was before the first season aired, you have to allow them to deliver their vision, because the moment that you have people that didn't have anything to do with the making of that show come in and tell them, no, you have to do this instead, you have to do that instead, it just becomes another hodgepodge, and it loses its focus and its direction, in the same way that shows like Lost lose their direction in later series, because they had a very definite direction. It might not seem like it, but they did. And then they were like, oh shit, we're popular, we need to get a few more shows, like seasons out of this. And so they start kind of messing with stuff to elongate things and push things down the road. It doesn't quite work. I would much rather watch Dexter and be disappointed with the season finale as I was, and still have Dexter as the show that it was, than to have them spin it off for another 5 or 6 seasons, as it kind of has, and just kind of be meh. You know, like I personally, having watched the reboot, the New Blood, I think it was, reboot, the first season that they brought it back. I didn't watch the latest one because I didn't have access to it. I'm not sure it was worth bringing it back. Like,
right.
In fact, I would go one further and say he probably should have just died at the end of the original series. They shouldn't have had him in the cabin looking at the camera in the way that he did, because it's such a non-committal ending. Like, just kind of have courage of your convictions. Now, I've not watched season 5 of Stranger Things. I don't know who dies, who doesn't die, who ends up God knows where or why. But when I watch it, I'm going to try to enjoy it for the story that the Duffers are telling, rather than judging it based on what I thought they should have done. And I know that this is a podcast where almost every other week I say, I would have liked them to do this instead. But that's my personal opinion. And it doesn't mean that I can't appreciate something for the story that they were telling.
Right.
So...
And I think, like, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's one of the, like, to add one last little point on it and to kind of tie it together to
Nice
Star
little
Wars again. Ryan Johnson said something not too long ago that I thought was really interesting. I don't think that there's zero value in getting feedback.
No.
And I kind of mentioned this already in terms of like ways to sort of tweak stuff or realize like, okay, we thought that maybe this would be super popular. I mean, even in something that is nowhere near the same thing. I remember when Austin and I used to do Hideous Energy, there would be episodes that I would be so excited about that would land with a thud. No one gave a fuck about. Like we would put, work into them or whatever else thinking like, oh, people are going to freak out about this. And then the ones where one of us went on some extended thing about suplexing balls into each other's, whatever. Like those are the ones people remember. Like
you just have to know your audience, David.
I guess, but also that my point is like you don't necessarily always know what will click and what will be popular with people, and getting that feedback and then maybe being like, okay, we can lean into some of these things a little bit more because people like it. Like that, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. There was a thing I found really interesting recently with Ryan Johnson where he was talking about. For the new Knives Out movie, which I still have not seen. He and his editor, because he had Final Cut, I believe, on these movies through Netflix, I think for all three, where he and his editor, after they had edited the movie and had it how they wanted, they then made, I think they called it an asshole producer cut, where they were like, we don't have a producer coming in to be like, you got to cut this scene, whatever else. Let's put on those hats and watch this movie through that lens. And so, okay, let's pause it here. We know that a producer would be like, why the fuck are all these people talking in this church for so long? Cut this in half. Take 5 minutes out of this church sequence of everyone sitting around talking. This is way, like, we're here way too long, blah, blah, blah. And they would make some of these cuts. And Ryan Johnson talks about how from now on, he's doing that for every single one of his movies because it was so helpful for them for two reasons. The first was to see, okay, there are times here where a producer would say this or that they would have this feeling and it reinforced that they're wrong and we made the right decision. Because the moment you cut this out, this scene doesn't work or this payoff later doesn't work, whatever else. But it allowed us to do that in a way where we could then look at and be like, this is why this is the way that it is. And we've just proven it. But then there were also other times where they were like, shit, you know what? Taking 2 minutes out of this scene actually made it better. And we, in our, perspective at first, weren't looking at it that way because we were just kind of enamored with the way we had handled it and weren't willing to look at it from another place. So I think there's value to stuff like that to a certain degree. But I think also like I like Ryan Johnson. I think he's an interesting, kind of great filmmaker writer. Like I think he's somebody who has the capacity and the ability to do something like that. But when it becomes, it's bad enough. You hear horror stories and whatever, Hollywood stories all the time, about, producers and whatever else. But when it gets down to the fan level, that's when it starts to drive me crazy. And it sucks too, because there have been moments where the Sonic one for me was one of the worst and best things to happen in this regard. Because that trailer came out for the Sonic movie. Everybody was like, what the fuck is this? Yeah. And people were justified. It looked very weird and creepy and not like Sonic. And they then redid it, delayed the movie, whatever, put a bunch more money into it. And it became a massive franchise. And one that not only is done well financially, but like critics and fans specifically like really seem to love and resonate with or whatever else. But it also was one of those things where I was like, oh, this is a shitty precedent though now, because it's reinforced to both fans and to studios that, we should listen and we should do what they say. And it's like, it worked this time. This doesn't mean it's always the right move.
Yeah. I mean, So
anyway.
I would make the counterpoint that in the very specific case of Sonic the Hedgehog, the reason that I don't feel like it's a dangerous precedent is because they done fucked up. Like, that was a horrendous... it was genuinely a horrendous design choice that would have killed their movie. People wouldn't have gone to watch it. And it's not... Here's the thing. When the Mario trailer came out, when the first trailer for Mario came out, and you had Chris Pratt doing his "It's a me, a Mario," but he's not doing "It's a me, a Mario." He's doing "It's me, Mario." Yeah. People complained about that. And Nintendo and Illumination were like, well, shut the fuck up. This is our movie.
Right.
You know, like at the end of the day, if you've got the important things right, and I think in the case of the Mario movie, they got all of the important shit right.
Mm-hmm.
That movie did bank. It did well. And,
yeah,
you know, Sonic would not have done well if they had left that design as it was. It looked fucking wrong.
No, that's my point though. I agree with you. It was the right move. It was just one of those things where it was like, there will be times in the future where it's not the right move.
No, I know.
Like you said, with the Nintendo thing, there will be times where people are just going to have to deal with the fact that it's not exactly what they wanted. And like you said, the major elements are there and everything else.
The look of a character in an animated movie, which ultimately is great fun, but not exactly earth-shattering in terms of like the filmmaking process. It's very different from a bunch of fans turning around and saying, we don't want woke Jedi, fuck that, like blah 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 blah, and then like something being corrected or you know we don't want fucking I can't even remember. I can't even remember.
It happens
what
with Disney and Pixar constantly.
Yeah.
Too, where it's like we don't want gay giraffes, and then they cut the gay giraffes in certain territories, and
fuck if it's a gay giraffe or not.
Right.
I mean, Disney have been doing that up and down all over the fucking place. They've got entire episodes of animated TV shows that they've just shut in the vault because it doesn't work for them, Jack. I think that I can understand why people and why you as well were kind of like, oh, that could be a bit of a dangerous precedent. I think that there's a difference between letting the audience dictate the entire creative direction of a movie and a franchise, and the audience saying that design looks like shit. Could we have something a little bit closer to what it actually looks like, please?
And the other thing too that is a factor is like, I think at the end of the day, studio heads, CEOs, they're going to do whatever they think can make them the most money and save them the most money. So if they think that fans showing up for this particular thing, I mean, you saw it happen with Sony and Morbius, where they were like, we're putting it back in theaters. And everybody was like, we were being ironic about this. You misunderstood the joke. We're not going to go see it.
I've changed my mind, David. You were right. You were absolutely right. Sonic set a terrible precedent, and obviously Sony, the fucking idiots who just can't seem to make a single right move. Jesus Christ, they've had a terrible decade.
Oh, man. I have other more specific thoughts about Stranger Things, but we're an hour into this episode, and I will let it go there, because you still have to touch on what you got into recently before the movie. So hit us with that. What, if anything, did you watch?
Okay. There's a lot, and I apologize. Because
just lightning round. Well, I mean, I don't want to say lightning round it. You can do that. I will tell you, and this is a little bit of a spoiler probably for the main topic. I have very little to say about our movie this week. Almost nothing.
That's so
cool. You know, if this is more of a front-loaded episode, that's okay.
Fine. It's more of the same with a different lead actor as the villain. It's fine. Okay. I mean, that's basically my review. So it being the Christmas period and Britain being very fond of horror movies and horror-related stuff over the Christmas period, I watched a lot of ghost shit. So it started off with The Ghost of Greville Lodge, which is a 2000 miniseries, starring George Cole, who British listeners, I don't know if we have any, but British listeners will be familiar with George Cole as being one of the lead actors from a TV show in the 80s called Minder. Also starring Prunella Scales, which very timely because she passed away a few days before it aired. Prunella Scales is the ex-wife of fucking hell. His name was in my head and now it's gone. John Cleese, who was also in Fawlty Towers. They played husband and wife in that show. Actually, were they married? I can't remember. I'll probably edit this if that was wrong. But,
John Cleese from Monty Python.
From Monty Python, yeah.
Yeah, okay. That would be more of the American touch point for it.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. But yeah, so it was a very 2000s TV show. It was basically a young teenager spends Christmas out in the sticks with old relative and starts having flashbacks of something that happened like 50 years beforehand. Um, it was all right. It was nothing like too special, but I was like, well, this is ghost shit, and I've got nothing else to watch at the moment, so I gave it a watch. It was well enough acted, but it had that stank of like turn of the century, early 2000s kind of the haircuts, the fashion, even the filming technique. Like the camera they used felt like high grade video camera as opposed to like proper cameras. It was quite strange. On the plus side, I also watched a bunch of the Ghost Story for Christmas TV shows that the BBC have been putting out on a yearly basis since way back in like 1970 something, I think. More recently, it was brought back by Mark Gatiss, who has directed one every year since 2020 or so. So this year was a story called The Room in the Tower. And then previous episodes on the last few years have been the Mezzotint from 2021, which is a story about a Mezzotint is kind of like it's like an etching using a single, like a pen or like a single instrument, and normally they are of like old buildings and things like that. Now the story of this one is that this guy is a collector. He runs a museum and he kind of brings in art pieces, and he sees this piece. Oh, played by Rory Kinnear, by the way. Just
Nice.
for everyone that's keeping track. Always love to see Rory Kinnear in anything. So I saw he was in this, and I was like, oh, I'm definitely watching it. He gets this mezzotint of a house, and he thinks it's quite boring, and he's like, I don't know why this was recommended to me. And then every time he shows it to someone, something in the print changes. So the moon comes out, and then there's a skeletal figure behind the bushes, and then the skeletal figure is crawling along the lawn. And he eventually finds out some interesting facts about his past, and then the mezzotint changes to his house, and suddenly the skeletal figure is crawling along the lawn towards his house, and then the window opens, and he's attacked by this skeletal thing that was shown in the painting. It's really fucking creepy. There's also a one from 2022 called Count Magnus, which that was very creepy, kind of like a vampiric kind of story. It was set in Sweden. One of the actors in it was the one of the actors who is also in The Witcher. She played the kind of like the headmistress of the magic academy that all of the witches went to. I can't remember her name. I should look it up, but I'm trying to keep this fairly brief. So apologies to everyone. That's just going to have to go over everyone's head. 2023's lot number 249, which was written by Sherlock Holmes scribe. Again, name's terrible. Sorry.
Moffat?
No. Hang on a second.
Oh, you mean Doyle?
Yeah, Arthur Conan Doyle.
Okay,
Yeah,
like the OG Sherlock.
Yeah. So he's written by Arthur Conan Doyle. It's about a mummy which is brought over to the UK from Egypt, and apparently it decides it wants to kill people. So it does. Then there's...
So it does.
So it does. This is how horror works in the UK. I'm a thing. I want to do something. I'm going to do it. Woman of Stone from 2024. Very creepy story. Domestic abuse coded. So if anyone has any back issues with domestic abuse, I would recommend, if you're triggered by that kind of thing, maybe give that one a skip. But it's a very powerful story set in the Victorian era of the UK. There are two stone knights that are laid on top of these kind of crypts, and the story is that on Christmas Eve night at midnight, the bell tolls and they come to life and revisit the site of their former home. And bad shit happens. And then 2025's The Room in the Tower, which I really, really enjoyed. It's set in the World War II era. It starts off in an air raid bunker, which is in London during World War II when there was an air raid. Rather than digging your own air raid shelter, you would go to the nearest. Well, if you had a tube station nearby, you would just go down into the tube station and take refuge there because you're like dozens, if not hundreds of feet underground. And so two people meet up in this air raid shelter, and the guy starts talking about, have you ever had a dream that came true? And so he starts talking to this woman, telling him about this dream, this constant dream he has, which features Joanna Lumley as a woman in a black dress who basically kind of like gives him the room in the tower to stay for the night. And then during this dream, he wakes up to be terrorized by this hooded figure. And then the dream comes true. He has a friend that he's playing tennis with who invites him to stay at his place. They go back and it turns out it is the house he was dreaming of. The woman in black is nowhere to be seen, but the mother of his friend says, why don't you stay with us for the night? I'll give you the room in the tower. And then everything plays out exactly the same. It's freaky. And then there's an ending which I don't want to spoil for people, but it's a really, really fun and inventive ending. And honestly, like Joanna Lumley is so creepy in this thing. She barely has any lines. It's literally just, I've given you the room in the tower, but the way that she delivers the lines, she does this weird thing with her eyes every time that she delivers that line, where she kind of just, you know, when you've got a dog and you like offer them a treat, and when you give them the treat, their eyes open that little bit wider.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that, but
like
evil.
locking in.
Yeah, it's really freaky. So that I watched all of those on BBC iPlayer while they were available, and then while I was on BBC iPlayer, I noticed that A Christmas Carol, a ghost story from 2021, was also available to watch. This is a live filming of a stage adaptation of A Christmas Carol, which was adapted for the stage by Mark Gatiss. So again, the guy from the Ghost Story for Christmas series. And it is really, really good. Like quite a barren setting in terms of like staging. They've got a few props that they use for like the office. And they've got like a bed that wheels in and wheels out. But other than that, like it's kind of theatre of the mind kind of stuff. Really, really well done. It's got a cast of maybe a dozen people in total who play multiple parts each. And they do a fantastic job of bringing the story to life. And even though you know that the Ghost of Christmas Past is also the guy that plays the fiddle down in the pub and is also one of the Cratchit kids, you don't care because the performances are so good that you just... There's something about good theatre where you know that it's just people standing on a stage making stories, but you don't care. You invest into it. It's a skill which films don't have to worry about. Certainly, modern films. When we did like the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, for example, like that kind of more German postmodern stuff, that feels a lot more like stage plays where you're really having to use your imagination to fill in the gaps. And yeah, like this was a wonderfully done staging. They've done a few more stagings of this since with different adaptations, different people in the lead role and whatnot. But this one I thought was particularly good. If people can find it, if it's still on iPlayer or if it's available to watch in your local areas, I would recommend giving it a go. I think it was about 2 hours long, but it genuinely didn't feel that long. It just kind of flew by, which again is another really good indication of a great production. Speaking of great productions, I watched two movies which have links to Peru. One of them was brilliant. The other one was Madam Web. Uh, so I watched,
Researching spiders, I believe.
yeah, in the Amazon. So yeah, Madam Web 2024. I don't think it's as bad as some people might like you to think. It's not great. Don't get me wrong. Like, there's an awful lot of things that are wrong with the movie in terms of scripting, but I do kind of like the idea of what they were going for with her powers and how she can see into the future, and how kind of fate is changed, and also the way that, and I don't know what the name of the villain in this movie is. It's just a dude that's got a Spider-Man costume for some weird reason.
Yeah,
Like the
I've seen
Black Hand
pictures.
or something. I don't know what his
Yeah.
fucking name is. But anyway, Ezekiel is the name of the character, so maybe I'll just call him Ezekiel. Um,
What's especially annoying to
hmm,
me is I loved that series that character was introduced in when I was a kid,
hmm.
and in the comics he's like an older dude, like with gray hair, who runs around in a suit without any shoes or socks on. Like
Yeah.
he's able to just stick to what he's got the powers. That's when they brought in the totem stuff and all that. Anyway, but yeah, when I saw a picture of this dude's costume in this movie, I was like, man, Sony is just so desperate to have Spider-Man movies. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
It's like we cannot have a movie which is tangentially related to Spider-Man and not have someone in a Spider-Man-esque costume. Um, it's kind of mad to me, but I thought that there were interesting ideas in it. There were also some really cringy moments. But the idea of how Ezekiel's fate changed and he was responsible for his own fate, I thought that was a really interesting hook, which they could have done a lot more with. Like the fact that he becomes so obsessed with finding these girls and killing them because they're going to kill him, but it's his obsession with finding and killing them which causes them to come after him. It's real kind of paradoxical stuff, which, whenever I want a time paradox story that I really enjoy, I'll go to Star Trek. But since they took that off Netflix, I guess I'm going to have to find a new place to funnel my interest in that particular genre of storytelling. But the other movie, which is related to Peru, was Paddington in Peru,
Ah,
also from 2024. Dude, I have you've watched some of the Paddington films, right?
I've seen the first two.
Okay, this is just more of the same. It's
Okay.
fucking brilliant. Genuinely, like there I'm going to admit something which is going to open me up to ridicule here. There were several moments in this movie where I had a lump in my throat and tears in my eyes. Like genuinely heartfelt, heartwarming, just fuzzy feeling movie. And I don't think that there is any movie other than possibly parts of the Willy Wonka film with Timothée Chalamet, which was made by the same people as Paddington, which absolutely explains why that's the case. I don't think there's any other movie that quite hits me in the fuzzies quite like Paddington movies do. It's just such an optimistic view of Britain, especially, but also just the world around us, and
Yeah.
the idea that people can just be kind and considerate to each other. There's a callback to Paddington 2 with Hugh Grant's character in the end credits, which is just wonderful to see. Like Hugh Grant willing to revisit that character and just have more fun. I'm really loving late career Hugh Grant. I call
Yeah.
it late career Hugh Grant, mid career Hugh Grant. I hope he has many years ahead of him. But the dude is just having a whale of a time, just taking on all these different roles, and really just making himself into just an indispensable part of the British acting uh, uh, furniture. There we go. I found a word. It's not the right word, but there you are. Yeah, so I really enjoyed that. Then I thought I was gonna go and watch something that I'd seen before. I was just kind of clicking through Netflix, like, is there something I can watch? And there was. It's called Hudson Hawk, 1991, Bruce Willis
Bruce
classic.
Willis.
It was either that or the remake of uh, I'm struggling so bad today. I'm really sorry. Um, you remember those really nasty revenge movies from the 70s and 80s with Charles Bronson, where he just
Oh, yeah,
killed a
Death
bunch of
Wish.
people. Death Wish, yeah. So
Yeah, yeah.
it was either Hudson Hawk or Death Wish, and I was like, nah, I want to
Also,
feel good.
Bruce Willis, right?
Yeah,
It was an
exactly.
Eli Roth remake. Yeah, I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
watch it.
And I was like, it's one of those two. I'm going to go for Hudson Hawk. It's so much fun. I don't know if you've seen Hudson Hawk.
I've never seen it.
Oh
I
man.
was talking with Austin about it just a few weeks ago because it's one. There's a lot of movies from that era that I am aware of because of comic book advertisements. So like back of a comic book or just a full page ad in the comic, and so I can see the poster or at least the ads they would use in the comics. I think it was also the poster. Just clear as day in my head right now. Like white, I'm pretty sure it was white background with him like swinging. It's like all very minimalistic and stark or whatever. And literally, yeah, a few weeks ago I was talking to Austin about it, and I was like, I still don't know what the fuck that movie's about. Like, I know it's not loved, but it's always been one where I like there was something about the vibe of the poster where I was like, as a kid even, I was like, this seems like something I would like. And there's like a weird group of 90s movies that fall into that same category where I would see ads for them in comics all the time and would sort of build an idea of what I thought they might be like. But it was also the era of like the Phantom, the Shadow, when they were making those like old school, characters in the 90s action movies. So I have it not lumped in with those, but like it's in the same sort of era. I want to say I looked it up not too long ago, probably when I was having that conversation with Austin. Isn't there like a liberal use of sound effects or something in the movie? Like, doesn't it have like kind of a goofy tone? Hudson Hawk, I mean,
It does have a goofy tone. I'm not sure about the sound effect thing.
I might be mixing it up with a different thing.
There
But I
might
remember there was something I read about where I was like, "Oh, that's way goofier than I expected." I thought it was like an action comedy, which it sounds like it still is.
It's definitely it's a goofy comedy. Like James Coburn is in it as like this kind of CIA style guy who at the end of the movie has like a kung fu fight with Bruce Willis's character. Somebody gets shot in their head with a explosive sucker dart. Just like some really ridiculous stuff. I would say tonally, it's kind of towing the same line as FX from 1986, which was there was an Australian actor called Brian Brown. Yeah, Brian Dennehy was in it as well.
Yeah, okay. I remember those.
It's that kind of thing. Like it takes itself serious at times, but most of the time it's quite goofy. It also has that kind of romantic comedy vibe going on with Andy McDowell being in it. It's set primarily in Italy, in Rome, but it's also set in New York as well. There's like a Blues Brothers thing going on with it at the very beginning too, which is quite fun. But yeah, it's funny. I interact with this movie a little bit differently today than I did back when I last saw it, probably like 10, 15 years ago. I not really a massive spoiler, but Hudson Hawk, the title character of the movie, he starts the movie being released from jail after like a 10-year stretch. And he comes back to his local bar that he owns with his best friend, and it's completely changed. He comes in and he's like, well, thank God this place hasn't changed. And he looks around and it's all different. And I was just like, ain't that the fucking truth? Like you come back somewhere after a few years of not being there and it's completely different. And I'm just like, man, I don't know if I'm just getting old. But I can definitely kind of like sympathize with the feelings here. But it's a really fun film. It's got Frank Stallone is in it in a bit part. Danny Aiello is alongside Bruce Willis as the kind of like main leads. David Caruso's got a bit part in there along with a few other actors as part of this covert group led by James Coburn that are all named after different chocolate bars. So Caruso is called Kit Kat. Lorraine Toussaint is Almond Joy. Andrew Briniarski is Butterfinger. So there's plenty of people there. Richard E. Grant is unhinged in this movie. He gets to chomp all of the scenery that he wants, and just absolutely love him for it. And playing his wife, if I can find her name, because she's one of those actresses that you know her face, but you don't always remember her name. Sandra Bernhard.
Oh yeah,
yeah. whenever she's in a movie and she laughs and I see the gap in her teeth, I'm just like, yes, that one, that woman. Hilarious in this, like absolutely. The two of them together, they chomp. It's like they had like this competition to see who could eat more scenery, and it just works. It really does. So yeah, that's a big recommendation, especially for you, David. I think you'd really enjoy that film if you find it somewhere. Then by all means, it comes with my most heartfelt recommendation. Movie that I can't give much of a recommendation because I watched 15 minutes of it and got completely fucking bored was last year's Exorcist Believer.
Yeah, David Gordon Green movie, right?
Yeah,
I think.
I'm going to probably come back to it at some point because it feels unfair of me to just kind of give it that amount of time and be like, nah, not really. But everything about it felt
no one
low-rent.
liked it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so
I'm not alone.
I don't know that I don't know. I mean, if you want to revisit it, by all means, but I don't think your initial reaction was any different than everyone else's. I mean, It was supposed to be a trilogy, and the reaction to it was so bad that they were like, you know what, never mind, and just kind of left it behind.
It just
now Mike Flanagan's making a new one.
Well, there we go. Out of the ashes rises a glorious phoenix. I'm not. It looks cheap. It feels cheap. Even there's like CG in the beginning of the movie, which just doesn't look brilliantly executed. And far be it from me to say that, I couldn't do any fucking better. That's for sure. But it never really gets going. And like everybody is there to see someone be exorcised or possessed, more likely. There's precious little of that. Like the point I left off, there was some kind of spiritualist seance going on between the two girls that go missing. And I was just like, I can't be doing with this. This is boring. So I turned over and watched something else. But yeah, I'll probably go back to it and give it a fair shake because I think at the very least I should watch it to the point where we're actually into the throes of possession and exorcism and see how I feel about it then, because that's the meat and potatoes of the film. It's just a shame that they didn't really seem like they were in any hurry to get there, especially because we already know what The Exorcist is. This is literally a named sequel to the original film. Most people watching this film have already seen The Exorcist or are very much aware of it through pop culture means. I don't think we need all the setup. Genuinely, I just don't think we need it. Like all of the stuff in Haiti was kind of cool, and the way that they showed like this kind of I don't want to call it voodoo because I don't know if it was voodoo, but there was some kind of ritual that took place, a blessing of the baby while it was still in the mother's womb, and that was quite interesting to see. But then it gets to like humdrum school run, and I'm like, why are we spending 10 minutes on a fucking school run where people are talking about shit that doesn't care? I don't care about any of the crap that you're telling me about right now. Why should anyone else? So anyway, and
also I've mentioned this in the show in the past, but like I don't know, I get that it's not the same thing, but the TV show I thought did such a good job of continuing this story. They did 2 seasons of it. It was done much more in a prestige TV kind of format. That I remember when this came out, I was just kind of like, I get that not everyone watched the show, and that's not going to be, at the front of everyone's mind, but also it kind of seems like we've been down this road in some of these ways, especially because I think that I don't remember exactly how, but I'm pretty sure that they touch back to Reagan and her mom's characters in this new one in some way.
Yeah, it would make sense.
Anyway, I think more than anything, just annoyed that the show didn't get more. The show was cool. At least I watched the first season, and it was.
Was that on great. Apple or was it somewhere else?
No, it was on network TV. I think. Okay. I have it pulled up right here. It was on Fox, but it was also like it was 10 episodes. Like it was done in a. It wasn't like and the new fall hit Exorcist series, 24 episodes or whatever. Like it was a more felt not like a mini series, but and had like bigger writers and directors
where it's
on
in between a series and a mini series, isn't there? I'm trying to remember.
Probably limited series, maybe. I don't
know. That sounds right. And something like that, I would be much more willing to accept this kind of pacing if I know that it's a 10 episode show. Like there was a show that got some plaudits at the end of last year called "It's All Her Fault," I think, which was about like a child abduction. And it runs for several episodes. My mum was watching it and was seemingly very enjoying it very much, and I was kind of popping in every now and then and seeing what was going on. And the pacing of that was fairly slow, but again, TV show, you expect them to kind of build these things up slowly. It's you can spend a lot more time on character development and interactions in the family and things like that. I'm watching a fucking 2 hour movie. I ain't got 10 minutes to spend on someone honking their horn because this guy's having a conversation with his daughter and won't get out of the fucking parking lane.
Right.
It's just, yeah, it was kind of mad. Anyway, two more things, and then we are finally done, and we can get on to the main topic. The first one is from 1956. It is a Alfred Hitchcock produced and directed movie, The Man Who Knew Too Much, starring James Stewart, and
Yeah.
I thought,
Classic.
yeah, absolutely. And I thought at the time I recognized her, and I thought, is that Doris Day? And I looked it up, and it was in fact Doris Day. And then she started singing, and I was like, that is definitely Doris Day. What a fun movie. It's funnily enough, having just mentioned It's All Her Fault, and the fact that that whole TV show is around based around like a child abduction. A large part of this movie is based around a child abduction. It's a couple that go on holiday to Morocco, and they get caught up, as is always the case in Hitchcockian thrillers. They get mixed up with the wrong people. There's a misunderstanding, and before you know it, they're embroiled in this massive conspiracy to kill the king of, or the president of, an unnamed Eastern European country. There's an assassination attempted at the Royal Albert Hall, which was kind of cool seeing that, because like I've been there a couple of times. I'm not massively familiar with it, but I am familiar enough with the look of the place, and seeing it from like 50 years before I had ever been there was kind of cool to see how little it had changed, and also how much it had changed at the same time. It seems like everything inside the hall hasn't changed a bit. Everything outside on the street completely fucking different. I guess that's listed buildings for you. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I do have this on DVD, because I bought this massive Hitchcock collection, which isn't exhaustive, but does have an awful lot of the Hitchcock movies in there. But I've never thought to go through it and watch them. So this came up at Christmas, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to watch this. I'm going to give it a go. So yeah, that's a recommendation. It's a classic. It doesn't need me to recommend it. You can see untold reviews from God knows who. Everyone from Jonathan Ross to Siskel and Ebert will tell you to watch this movie. And then, and to my eternal shame, in the 40 plus years that I have lived on this planet Earth, I have never watched the greatest, one of what is apparently one of the greatest films of all time, according to many people. The Third Man from 1949. There
Classic.
we go. It is
Another
classic.
classic.
Orson Welles is in it for a hot minute at the end of the movie. But the main heavy lifting is done by Joseph Cotton and Alida Valli. I wish I had watched this movie a few years ago, and there's a very personal reason for this, and that is that we've spoken on the show, I think, a few times about my granddad and what he did just after the war, because he wasn't old enough to serve during the war, but just after the war he joined up, and he ended up serving as a military policeman in Europe. And my memory for this stuff isn't as good as his ever was, and sometimes I get shit mixed up. And we may have talked about the fact that while he was a military policeman, he did some service working with the other three main armies that were policing the disputed areas of Europe, whether that's East and West Germany or Vienna, places like that. And he was watching this movie, I suddenly thought to myself, holy shit, he would have loved this movie, because it's literally set in Allied occupied Vienna, which is where he was stationed.
Oh, that's cool.
there are troops going around. They say at the beginning of the movie that there were Allied troops which consisted of a Brit, an American, a Russian, and I can't remember what the other nationality was. But you would normally have four MPs in a van or in a car driving around Vienna, making sure that nothing was going awry. And I was like, shit, like he would have been in Vienna when this was filmed. Like, this is literally
That's pretty
a
crazy.
movie about a part of his life. And I'd never seen it. He'd never mentioned that this movie was. I don't know. I don't even know if he knew about this movie. That's the crazy thing. And I wish that I had seen it early enough that I could have talked to him about it, because it's a fascinating portrait. I would love to have heard from him about how accurate this was to how Vienna actually was, because it was filmed in Vienna. It's fucking mad. And it's a great movie as well.
Yeah. I haven't seen
take-
it since high school, but I remember it kind of blowing my mind back then.
Yeah.
I had a film class in high school that was, I think at the time, pretty new. It was like our theater teacher, and she did it as like an elective, and I was like the first to. I was so excited for it, and so she showed us a lot of. That's the first time I ever saw Casablanca and a lot of those like older sort of classics, and that was one she showed that I had no frame of reference for it before we watched. I mean, I knew who Orson Welles was because of Citizen Kane, but yeah, I remember a lot of it, even just from having seen it, 20 years ago now. I'm not trying to take away from your story, just
no,
adding
no,
on to
not
it.
at all. No, it's
Great
it's
movie.
always cool to hear other people's experiences with these films. So yeah, really enjoyed it. I really thought it was interesting to see how it highlighted the seedy underbelly with like racketeers and things like that. Actually, I do have a little bit of an experience with The Third Man, but it is so indirect that you wouldn't believe it. There is a book from one of the guys that was responsible for a British comedy series called Red Dwarf. It was it Grant Naylor or Douglas Naylor? The book was called Incompetence, and it was set in Europe, some indeterminate time in the future. It would very much be classed as an anti-woke book now. And the reason is that like it says like, oh, basically European Union passed a bunch of laws which meant that you couldn't discriminate against people for not being good at their job, which ended up resulting in a bunch of people having jobs that they weren't suited for. So like this guy's walking around in vegan shoes made out of dried carrot that don't fit properly, and the soles are coming off, and he gets a reservation at a hotel, but the reservation clerk is completely inept, and so the booking is double booked, and he ends up losing the hotel room, and it kind of very loosely follows the idea of The Third Man, as well as one or two other movies from around the same era, I believe. There's a character called Johnny Appleseed in it, which is a reference to another film. I can't remember which one, but yeah, like so. There were every now and then there were very little kind of like things that poked into my head, and I was like, I think I read that in that book. But it's yeah, man, it's a great film. It really is, and that theme tune is just iconic. Like
Oh yeah.
the moment it starts playing, having never seen the film before, it's a pop culture touchstone. Like you know that song even without having seen the film before. But yeah, like I thought that Orson Welles was absolutely brilliant in his role as is it Harry Lime? I can't remember the guy's
Yep.
first name. Yeah, just psychotic, but in a very calculated and almost logical way. Like he knows what he's doing is wrong. He knows what he's doing is illegal, but he's like, well, if I'm not doing it, someone else will. And that it's put to him that like him cutting prescription drugs to like eke them out and sell them for greater profit has resulted in the direct deaths of people up and down the country. And they're on top of a Ferris wheel at the time. He looks down and he says, you look down there at all of those little specks down there. Are you telling me that if one of them stopped moving and I gave you $20,000 each, that you wouldn't take that money? They're no one to you. You don't know them. And it's like, it's such a nihilistic viewpoint, but unfortunately, it's a viewpoint which only became more pervasive as the years went on. Yeah. Really ahead of its time, I think, in some ways. I'm not a film critic. I'm not the one that can talk about whether or not these movies are the greatest of all time. But it's definitely a movie that I'm going to revisit at some point down the line. And I can see how it does have influences on a lot of other kind of film noir movies and Cold War movies
huge.
And things like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's really good, especially when you get into like the underground tunnels of Vienna, and it's like, oh shit, like this is mad. Like, first of all, Vienna's got an amazing sewer system. Good grief. But yeah, like it's a really, really fun film, an interesting film, I should say. Which was voted as the second best British film ever in 1999 by the BFI. So there you go.
That'll do it.
And that, I believe, is it. We're almost 2 hours in. And we can get on to the main topic.
It's fine. It's okay. So this is going to be more of a personal breakdown than it is. So very quickly, bullet pointy. Underworld Evolution. This is our next, installment in this franchise, both of the actual franchise itself and also our, film by film breakdown of it. It came out in 2006. Returning screenwriters, script writers, story writers, and director Len Wiseman, Danny McBride, not that one. A lot of the same characters and actors coming back. Cost $45 million, made 113, so did pretty well. I was very excited to see this in the theater. I saw it at least twice that I can remember, maybe more. 2004, I would have been, 2006, I would have been 17, which is probably the exact right age for this film. It didn't get great reviews, which, realistically, I don't think any of these movies did. I did want to also add a quick caveat that I expanded the Underworld table at the bottom of the Wikipedia article, and there was, along with the Eternal War video game, there was an animated thing called Endless War, which is just Eternal War with a different word, that apparently were 3 short animated films, each like 5 minutes or less, or maybe around 5 minutes, that I think it says were part of the trilogy collection when it came out on Blu-ray. Okay. And they're on YouTube. I have not watched them. So technically, though, it did have an animated thing. So I did want to, add that little redaction correction, whatever you want to call it. I mentioned in our last Underworld episode that I was excited probably the most of all the ones I had seen to rewatch this one, because I had not seen it since high school or college. And when I was younger, this was on par with the first one for me in terms of thinking it was awesome and like the mythology and everything else. Dude, I don't know that I have ever had a not even a 180, just a debilitatingly sad, crushing realization of how young and stupid I was about a movie.
Oh man.
That then came back. Like, I was shocked at how, I wasn't shocked that it was worse than I remembered necessarily, because these movies often are. But when you've seen them as much as you did back then, there usually is nostalgia or something comes into play that bears the load a little bit, a little bit more effortlessly than you would watching it cold. And that nostalgia and affection for this movie did not come back for some reason. And everything that I remembered fondly, watching it this time, I was like, holy fuck, this movie is, I would say now, significantly worse than the first one. Well, I shouldn't say significantly. It is worse than the first one, but I think probably part of it is how poorly it's aged with the effects in a way that the first movie didn't really. We talked about that in our first installment. Like, a lot of the Lycan stuff was, you can tell, is practical. And even like the visual effects shots that they used in the first one are more intentional. This movie had more money, and they clearly were just pumping it into CG stuff that probably by the next 5 years, and I just hadn't seen it since then, had aged poorly. Like, it gives the entire movie a sheen that just feels, for me at least, tainted the entire thing. And then I think that just sort of started to bleed into everything else. Stuff that I remembered thinking was really cool watching it this time just wasn't as cool, or it was just kind of bland. I totally forgot that they changed Michael's look a bit with his like snout and stuff. In a way that I think back then, and I mean his hybrid form, obviously. Like, I think back then I probably was just like, oh, cool, yeah, they have more money. This time I was like, I don't like this. I like how he looks more in the first one, like significantly more, where he's more just kind of a blue guy, like with some more like define, like his weird snout. It makes it incongruous with the first movie. Like, it just doesn't work. Like, suddenly he's different. And I mean, I'm sure me at that age, I probably would have been like, oh, he's evolving, whatever. Like, it's still part of his thing. I'm sure I would have had mythology sort of reasons for it. But yeah, dude, I don't know. I had a weird day that day, the night that I watched it too, which could have impacted it. And it wasn't a bad day necessarily. There was just kind of like, I mean, I won't like get into details or whatever. I mentioned I've been dating. It was a day where like there was communication stuff where it was just like I felt like timing was weird, or like me and other person I was talking to, like something just felt slightly off or whatever. And I probably was in my own head a little bit of like, is this me? Like, is this just what dating is sometimes? Is this me not knowing what I'm doing because I'm like, kind of late to the game in a lot of ways with this stuff? Like what, and just kind of feeling off. That might have impacted it too. But holy fuck, dude. I was watching this and just being like, Jesus. Like, I expected the first movie, how that went, which was kind of how I expected this one to go. Like, I had fun watching the first one. And even though you and I like had plenty to say that was critical of the first movie, there was still a lot of me that was just like, man, I love these dopey movies. Like this weird, unspecified Europe that they're all in, where it's nighttime all the time and like nothing really makes sense, but it's also like very influenced by the Matrix. And like this movie, I'll say that doesn't feel influenced by the Matrix anymore, but it is less interesting, maybe because it's not as influenced by the Matrix. Like once they were like, we're doing our own thing, then it's like, maybe you guys should have ripped off another movie again, because your own thing like isn't that great. I don't know. There were still little moments here and there that I liked how they looked. There's aspects of it that I still am like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool, or that's neat, or whatever. But yeah, man, I was shocked. Like, and then I was talking to somebody this week and telling them about it, and I was like, the amount of people that I probably recommended this movie to when I worked at Blockbuster that I sent home with a horrible movie. But it's one of those things where like when you talk to someone who's younger sometimes and they're talking about how amazing a movie is, and you're not going to burst their bubble or like shit on it or whatever, but there's also part of you in your head where you're just like, you just haven't seen enough movies yet. Like, and that's not your fault. That'll happen. Like you'll see enough stuff to be able to judge this against and realize like, I mean, for Daniel, my son, he's 9. Like every time he sees a movie that he loves, it's his new favorite movie. And it just makes sense logically because he's constantly seeing stuff that he's never seen. And I think that was a big part of it. Probably I had seen a lot of movies by the age of 17, but I was still 17. So yeah, that's like more or less the sum total of my thoughts on this movie, because going into it more, it's not even that I would be nitpicky or that I would be shitting on it or that I would be finding Chris Farley moments. It's just kind of, it sounds like and I'm going to throw the ball to you. It sounds like your reaction to it was a little less soul crushingly disappointing as it was for me.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I benefit from the fact that I probably saw something of this movie on TV at some point. After it released, obviously not before it released, that would be weird. But I don't have that emotional connection to Underworld that emotional is the wrong word, but certainly like you have this connection to it growing up with it. Whereas by the time this came out, I was in my early 20s, and I think probably 2006. Let me think. I probably would have been a lot more about Blade than I was about Underworld if I was going to be looking at vampire fiction. To be fair, 2006, I think True Blood might have been in the offing at that point. So that might have been something that I would have been more into as well, because boobs. You can't blame a boy. But yeah, like I have to say, like I didn't have the same reaction to the CG that you've mentioned, and it might be because I wasn't expecting much from it, or I wasn't remembering it differently or something. But the CG didn't look terrible to me. I think there are parts where it's very clear that you're interacting with something that isn't really there. Like there's a moment in the opening scene set back in the 1200s when one of the Lycans jumps onto a horse that someone's riding, and it's very clear to me that it's literally just the guy rode the horse and then did the stunt fall command to it, and it fell over, and they animated the wolf where it could fit.
Right.
But I thought that Marcus, when he was in his bat form, for the most part, looked pretty decent.
I didn't mind those makeup effects. He looks goofy, but it at least like felt more intentionally designed.
I liked the fact that they come to the conclusion, oh wait, he's also a hybrid. Michael wasn't the
That was
first.
one thing that was confusing to me too, because he's not really, right? I mean, not by the definition that they've made already in the movie, because like technically by the end of the movie, Celine's a hybrid too.
Yeah, so
right?
I think my reading, yes, I think she is. My reading of it is that, and I could be completely wrong about this, so bear with me on it. Derek Jacobi's character, who is the father of the Corvinus brothers, Alexander Corvinus. So he's just an immortal human. And best as I can tell, he's not a vampire, he's not a werewolf. I think he's just an immortal human. And then the brothers, one was bitten by a bat, one was bitten by a wolf, and they become what they are. But here's the thing, I think that being as they are the progenitors of their races, maybe they are a purer version of what came afterwards, whereas everyone that they bit became just vampires, like Bill Nighy's character. He's just like a very senior vampire, right?
Yeah, and the werewolf, the Lycans at the like the ones that were bitten by him, like they couldn't turn back,
and over time they began to be able to control it. I wonder if maybe the modern hybrids are actually just because of the recombination of the bloodline, they're coming closer to what the original vampire and the original werewolf actually were. Maybe not with the werewolf, but with the vampire certainly. Also, he's got the same blue
even
skin.
The hybrid idea. I was going to say even the hybrid idea for Michael is. We talked about this in the first episode of this loose franchise thing. Is like more a werewolf. Like he's not like the vampire idea is like okay. I guess in this movie they kind of like address it a little bit more in that he needs blood. So like that would basically be it, but
essentially because he hasn't got fangs.
Not really. I mean, he does in as much as a werewolf also has fangs. Like
it's not in like his human form.
It's not right.
Because that's Celine has like very slight vampiric looking teeth. Unless his front two teeth are meant to look vampiric, because he's got like a slightly kind of. I'm not going to say weird because everyone's teeth are unique in their own ways, but his teeth almost have this like slight kind of like sawtooth look where they're higher in the middle than they are on the sides, so they look almost like vampiric rabbit teeth, just not exaggerated like a rabbit's would be.
Right.
It's a weird thing to mention, but there we are. I've said it.
Well, the whole thing too is that it's like the first movie establishes they put so much focus and emphasis on this idea of a hybrid, and that Michael is the hybrid or whatever. And then after that, the definition of hybrid is much looser and also not really consistent with what Michael was so like
seems like it's
fine.
Different for every hybrid. They have different characteristics. So like Michael is a lot closer to a Lycan than he is a werewolf. Although, sorry, Jesus Christ, he's a lot closer to a Lycan than he is a vampire. Although,
which makes sense. Like, what if? And I thought about that. Like, what if Celine would have bit him before? I always want to call him Wesley Snipes because that's his character's name on 30 Rock. He played Frost. What the fuck is that dude's name in the first movie?
Yeah,
that's the guy who bites Michael.
Can't think of his name right now.
Michael Sheen.
Yes.
Michael Sheen.
Yeah.
He bites Michael in the first movie, and he's a Lycan. So maybe that's the thing, is that like Michael's a hybrid, but the dominant thing is that he's more wolf-like because he was bitten by a lichen.
Although,
I
in
guess.
fairness, like, you know, his true lichen form, which is very wolf-like, versus the hybrid, where he's basically just a blue dude with some kind of more kind of jagged teeth and shit. And in the first one, he's got a weird rib cage, but in the second one, he's just got a regular torso and his face is jacked up. He's closer to a 50-50 hybrid in that sense. In a way, he's actually erring more towards vampiric than he is towards lichen at that point. But then you've got Marcus, who is very much a fucking bat. And then it seems as though Celine is basically just a vampire that can go out in the daytime now.
Just Blade, yeah.
So
by the end of the movie,
yeah. So like every hybrid seems to have a variance in what they exhibit in terms of lycanthrope and vampiric characteristics. I
noticed one. Sorry. Go ahead.
I can completely understand why they didn't want to bury Kate Beckinsale under a bunch of blue paint, like, you know, Mystica.
Sure.
Although,
but that's actually what I was going to say. Is I also noticed in this movie her contacts were way more intense than they were in the first movie. Like there was a lot of stuff like that, like Michael's face, her eyes, like I understand having more money and being excited about upping production stuff, but I felt like there were a lot of moments where they did it so much that they altered the designs in a way where you're like, this is kind of weird. Like it wasn't like this in the first movie, and it wasn't like the first movie was 10 years prior or something. Like it was only not long before that. Yeah,
it was like 2003. Yeah, it's 2003, so it was only 3 years later.
Movie also has one of the most uncomfortable sex scenes I've ever seen in my life.
The dude's
I remember
like
as a
6
kid,
inches too high on her to be doing anything.
Well, I remember seeing it as a kid, as a 17-year-old, and being like, "Oh, Kate Beckinsale's so hot!" Like, you know, having like a very like teenage boy kind of reaction to it. Watching it this time, I was just like, "What a fucking weird sex scene!" Like, they're both naked. They're clearly shooting it in a way that's supposed to be kind of sexy or like sensual, but like you said, like. There's just even weird things where it's like they're in unnatural positions that feel more like they were blocked to cover nudity.
I think that was
they
it.
were.
Yeah. They were trying to be artistic and keep her from flashing anything that she would not want to flash, which is completely understandable. Not everybody has got the Helen Mirren approach of
the camera can move. Like it's one of those things too where it's like you could do this in a way that doesn't have them look like they don't know how it works. Like there was a lot of stuff where it was just kind of like I don't know, maybe this is some hybrid vampire sexual energy.
Has
but
anyone
more than
here
anything
had sex before?
It just feels so awkward. Like yeah, dude, my brain switched off, like, and it was to the point where I was like, I don't really, you know, do research in Michigan anymore, as I've alluded to in the past, but this was a situation where I was like, I don't even know that some Michigan research would have helped with this movie. Like, it's just kind of dull. Like, even the action fight, like the scenes, I remembered those being on par with the first one, or at least my enjoyment of them, and not this time. Like, a lot of the action in the first movie is limited. You can tell their budget is holding them back from a lot of stuff. So it's a lot of like, you know, let's have people shooting guns, but there's not a lot of choreography to it necessarily. This movie had more choreography and more stuff where they wanted to do set pieces, but for the most part, it just doesn't look great, or it's awkward, or it's clunky, or the effects don't hold up super well.
I did enjoy the bit in the forest where she finds Michael and takes out all of the police.
Dude, I liked that part too. I forgot about that, where she's like fucking whipping around real fast.
Yeah.
That was something where I was like, this is what this movie should be more like.
Yep.
Like, this should be something where there's more money, so it's like, hey, we can show how fast she is. Because there's shit like that in the first movie too, but they always do it in a way where it's like, or with Michael at the end, when he's hybrids out at the end of the first movie, where he's just appearing behind people and stuff, where it's like, okay, he's moving so quick that we don't see it.
That was another thing. Yeah, that was something that bothered me about this movie. They so badly nerfed him in this film. That like he just became a side character. At no point did I think to myself, okay, he's on par with Beckinsale's character as being the joint lead. Like, he is literally the sidekick now.
Yeah. And they even kind of kill him off and
Yeah.
then sort of just inexplicably bring him back. And then even when he kills Alpha Werewolf Boy, I don't remember his name now.
William, I think.
Is it William? Yeah, it is William. He kind of kills him in a way that's so fast that you're just kind of like, okay, like this dude was supposed to be like, you're expecting like a pretty crazy fight between, and my memory was that it's like, oh yeah, and then Celine's fighting Marcus and he's fighting William. Yeah. But watching it this time, I rewound it at one point because I was like, did I miss something like that? But he grabs him at one point and rips his head off. Like, it's pretty fast. Yeah. I remember as a kid thinking the part where she stabs him and kicks him into the helicopter was like so fucking cool, like badass and like gory.
Yeah.
And it was like 60% effective for me this time. There was still part of me that's like, yeah, that's cool.
That may have been the weakest CG that I saw in the film.
It's rough.
Yeah.
And it's strange how they handle old characters too. Like Craven's in it, but they kind of just, tidy him up pretty quickly and move on. Like we get all of these new sort of replacement characters for not the exact roles of what we lost in the first movie, but just like a lot of them died. So like the Coven was obliterated or whatever else. They're just, my memory as the movies go on is that this is kind of the template where, and it's interesting now because I remember, jokingly telling you in the past episode, like, tune in next time on Underworld Evolution, the high point or the last time we'll watch a good one of these. Now I'm not so sure. Now I'm wondering like maybe Awakening and Blood Wars, Rise of the Lycans, I'm not sure, but the other two modern ones will be more fun now because they're newer, have different directors. Like this was the last one Wiseman touched. I think some of the screenwriter guys stayed with at least like story credits and stuff. But really after that, the only consistent link is Kate Beckinsale. So it makes me wonder how those will hit me now. But I do at least remember that they're all kind of like generic, like actors that probably have bit parts in their respective countries, but like have never broken through. Like the newest one has Theo James in it as like kind of her new, I don't even remember if he's a love interest, but he's like kind of the new Michael role. And he was the dude in The Monkey, the new Oz Perkins movie. So like that was one of the few times where I was like, oh, is someone from an Underworld sequel, like eventually kind of clicked and did something else later on or whatever. But it all just kind of seems like a repertoire of like actors that aren't getting starring roles ever, and they're just kind of recycling through similar looking, feeling, sounding people. I don't want to say European, but I mean, they seem like they mostly are. It's like, then that's this movie too, is like, I think it's established they're in Hungary. Did you notice that? Like,
yeah, it feels like Eastern European, Hungary, maybe Czechoslovakia, somewhere like that.
Because like at one point, Celine speaks, I think, Russian, like to a guy. Like there's stuff that
I wasn't sure what that was. The only thing I recognised, and this is because I've seen True Lies far too many times than I should do, is that there's a scene in True Lies where Schwarzenegger is pretending to be some kind of big drug baron, and he's making Jamie Lee Curtis, who is his wife in the movie, do a striptease for him. And one of the instructions on the tape recorder that he uses the word doucement, which translates to slowly. And he uses, the security guard uses the same word, doucement. And I don't know if that might be French.
I don't know. I mean,
whatever it is.
At one point, I know at one point in the subtitles, it said something about like speaks Hungarian or something. So it might have just been a thing where like whoever was making the subtitles was like, what language is this? Okay, it's Hungarian.
Probably is Hungarian.
But it's also interesting too, because it's like, it doesn't seem like Michael and Celine have traveled far enough to be in a wildly different place than in the first movie. Like they haven't had enough time.
It was definitely, it felt European coded in the first movie.
Oh, totally. But the first movie also feels like they kind of are careful to not specify. And
they're a lot more careful in the first one to not say where they are for sure. It's only the number plates that really gave it away for me in the first.
Yeah, and like signs and stuff like that. But
yeah.
Dude, I was shocked. I was shocked at how little my passion for this movie as a kid came back. It just was nothing. And I was just like, Jesus Christ, this is a bad movie. Like, it's weak.
That's a shame. I'm sorry that it hasn't really lived up to your lofty expectations of what it was in your mind. There was a couple of things in the movie that really stood out to me that I did want to mention. The first one is just more of an observation, and this is something that I don't know. I feel like I've probably always noticed it, but consciously I've only started thinking about it in the last few years. And I think the thing that really made me start thinking about it was when we watched Troll 2, actually. And that's the fact that in this movie, William is captured in 1202, according to what I'm reading here. And he's locked up for all eternity in this really cool casket, which has got all these sliding locks and shit that you wouldn't be able to make work today if you were the best locksmith in the world. In Troll 2, way fucking back in the annals of time, they bury King Olav, or whatever his name is, under the church, and then they seal him away behind this wall, which is kind of keyed in with these holes in the wall that you have to line up with poles, and then you turn them, and then the whole thing will fall out. You've got Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, where, you know, at the beginning of the movie, I think it's Temple of Doom, he's running away from the boulder, and like there are like darts flying at him out of the walls and shit. And have you ever stopped and thought about the fact that it seems as though the ancient and historic civilizations of like almost 1,000 years ago all seem to have much better locksmiths and trap makers and technology than we seem to have now? And it can't all be that they were all cribbing off of the fucking Mayans or something like that. Like, it just seems like
no
a lot
electricity,
of this...
man. You gotta pull some extra levers.
I don't know. I was looking at that cask that they kept William in, and the way that the locks kind of like flicked off, and how it was all shiny and chrome, and you know, I'm just thinking to myself, that was made in the 1200s. Dang, son! Like, it's a stupid sci-fi movie. It shouldn't occur to me, but I'm just impressed at how constantly locksmiths and puzzle makers of these ancient civilizations. Atlantis apparently has a lot to answer for. It's just kind of mad. Also, the makers of Underworld Evolution don't have a fucking clue how gravity works, and this isn't because of Marcus flying or anything like that. It's like, at the end of the day, we don't know how bees can fly. They just do. But what I would like to point out is you've got a vampire who... I mean, how much would you say Marcus weighs? 250 max?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, the wings would add a lot, but other than that, yeah.
So you've got a 250-pound humanoid who's grabbing on the end of a rope attached to a helicopter. And when he pulls, rather than climbing up the rope, the helicopter gets pulled down.
Yeah.
Like, some movies I've seen, people will brace themselves against something so that they don't end up being pulled up off the ground by their own weight, by their own strength. But in this movie, apparently Marcus is Spider-Man. He can just attach his feet to whatever the fuck he wants and just pull. It was a cool moment, and obviously it needs to happen because you need that set piece of the helicopter nose down with the rotors spinning. It's a cool visual. It took me out of the moment. I was like, what? How heavy are you, Marcus? Did you have a big lunch?
Dude, it's the whole, to me, this is like a great example. This movie, like just in general.
You were going to explain it, and then you were like, yeah, I can't.
I not even explain. I was like, I have no, this is kind of my whole thing with this movie. It's like, I have no energy for this movie. Like, to me, it's a great example of when money doesn't fix anything. Like, it's not the first movie. I'm shocked to have this experience now and realizing that the first movie to me is so much better, and none of them are great. Obviously, we know that going the same way we're going to watch the Resident Evil movies. Like, we know what we're getting into here. But it definitely felt like they thought, well, we don't have to work as hard at certain things because we have the money now to solve these problems. And it that obviously doesn't work for the script. That obviously doesn't work for acting. That obviously, like, there are things that money isn't going to necessarily impact or wouldn't immediately. But even the stuff that it should, like set design or effects or whatever, it's like they didn't. It doesn't feel like they put as much time into this one as they did in the first one, and you feel it. Like even down to just like the vibe of the set of the Coven in the first one, and I mean, we were poking fun at it in the first episode, but like them using target practice with like ancient pieces of art, busts and stuff, like it's goofy and stupid, but there's also something kind of charming about the fact that they like have this like, you know, gothed out latex vampire world or whatever that is kind of fun and campy or whatever. Whereas in this one, it just everything in comparison feels so drab and boring. And like I remember people being critical of the first movie, feeling both of them, probably honestly, maybe all of them, I'm not sure, having this like sort of drab blue filter over everything. And I can see that on the first one. I really felt it in the second one, where it was like just everything looks the same. And I don't need it to be like poppy color, you know, pop art kind of shit. Like it's a movie called Underworld Evolution that is a Romeo Juliet vampire werewolf sort of backdrop. Like obviously it's not going to be sure, but there is a weird thing where it makes it feel so like kind of lifeless. And we talked about the first movie with Beckinsale being kind of phoning it in, and obviously Michael Sheen was like, I think the best part of that. He comes back in the next one. Maybe this was part of it where they were like, we got to do a prequel. We got to get Sheen back. The Sheen, let's get him back in here to get things running. But it's, I don't know, dude. Even at the beginning when we get to see some of the characters that have died, like Amelia, and who, by the way, when I saw her in this movie, I was like, who the fuck is, like, this girl is gorgeous. Like, is this the same woman who was Amelia in the first movie? Like, not that person was ugly, but she's so... she looks so different. She's in it so briefly in the first movie. But anyways, to get to see her, we get to see Victor, Bill Nighy's character, who was committed as ever. Like, I feel like he's more over the top in his scene in this movie than in the first one. And in the first one, there's literally a part where he just makes noises at Celine and doesn't even say words. And he still outdid himself somehow in this film. But yeah, I remember thinking, and I kind of feel this way now, not being as excited about the prequel because I liked all of the Matrixy shit. I liked the guns and the weapons and stuff like that. And knowing with the prequel, it's set back, you know, whenever the flashbacks are set. There's no, it's all like medieval kind of stuff. Makes me wonder now how it'll hit, especially after watching this one. But, and honestly, the rest of them, I wonder too, like how will those hit? Because different directors start coming in, different styles. I would imagine it'll probably be a lot like Resident Evil, where there will be ones where we're like, oh, that one was really bad. And then there are other ones, most of them where we're like, yeah, it's a Resident Evil movie. But then every once in a while, there will be a sequence or something from a director where we're like, oh, they kind of nailed it here. They tapped into something that the franchise hadn't done yet in this moment, or, you know, in this action set piece or whatever else. But oh boy, this was a rough one for me. Part of my childhood died this week.
Oh man.
And I was like,
that's rough.
Well, this is gone. Yeah. Like this is, we'll see what happens with the rest of them. The first one still works for me. It's a campy, stupid, goofy, dumb movie, but I still really like it. And you know, for what it is, I think I was probably just too close to the franchise when it came out, that I gave this one a lot more credit than it deserved.
Maybe at some point I have to revisit all of the DCU stuff and see whether I was just trying to kid myself as well. And in reverse, you know, the other side of it, the Matrix. You know, I bought that DVD, the Blu-ray box set of all of the Matrix movies. Well, the 3 Matrix movies. Notoriously, I believe there is only one Matrix movie. But then they brought out the one a few years ago, and I was like, oh shit, this is actually not too bad at all. Maybe I need to give the other ones a go again. So, you know, it's like, it can go both ways. You can revisit stuff and be like, oh no, oh dear. And then you can revisit other stuff and be like, holy shit, this is actually not bad.
Yeah, and also like I jokingly, we'll trade barbs with you about the Matrix stuff because I'm a defender of the second and third ones, but I also at the same time would be the first to say and agree with you that like there's one fantastic Matrix movie and it's the first one, and then the second and third I think are great if you are along for the ride that what the Wachowskis were doing of like, let's really give you everything about this world that we've thought up and that we love about it and that we have thought about in the past and we had in our heads that didn't make it into the first movie because we were telling a very tightly controlled sort of story of one guy's path from A to B or whatever. Yeah. And then the second and third are like, now we're going to show you everything. We're going to show you like our ideas behind these concepts and that there were other versions of the one of Neo before Neo. And here's like the massive scope. And if you can buy into them in the way that similarly to like buying into Avatar, where it's just like, all right, I'm just going to let this kind of wash over me and like embrace the mythology. Yeah. They're not perfect by any means. And they have clunky shit. And it was the same reason I liked the fourth one. The fourth one has, from what I remember, I've seen it once, some pretty shitty action. Like the action was never good for me in that one. I kept waiting for it to be cool and it just never was. Yeah. But the ideas and the mythology and the way that, one of the Wachowskis at that point expanded it and continued it, I was all on board for it. Like there was a lot of shit in that. I remember being like, oh, that's such a fucking cool idea that we have these ways that the machines have evolved and everything else. And that's, I think, what I wish, and maybe this franchise will have it more after this one, but that's what I wish they would have maybe almost done more of. It's like, keep it messy. It doesn't have to be a tight, perfect movie. Like, I don't think anyone's expecting that, but maybe don't make your own mythology confusing. Because in this one, there's definitely parts like we've already established and talked about where it's just like, so is fucking everyone a hybrid unless they're just the what? Like what does this even mean anymore? Yeah. And from what I remember, at least in Awakening, the world shifts a bunch. That movie opens with everyone in the world knowing that there are vampires and lichens, and there's much more of a militaristic kind of, we got to hunt these vampires down and eradicate them, and their numbers are dwindling, and like the world sort of shifts. But I remember at the time thinking like, this is pretty awkward and abrupt. Like we just have this jump and suddenly the entire franchise is not in the direction it was heading with the end of Evolution. But I also loved Evolution back then. So maybe this time around I'll be like, no, this is a cool direction. Like leave all this convoluted hybrid shit behind. Yeah. And let's make it into something, that it didn't start out as necessarily. But we'll see. I think I'm tapped out on this movie.
I got one last thought. And it's barely anything to do with this movie, but it was sparked by one scene in the film. So right near the end when she's fighting Marcus and she picks up the two pistols and she's dual pistol wielding against him. I think it's against Marcus. I was watching that and it suddenly popped into my head. Why the fuck did we not get a Kate Beckinsale Tomb Raider movie?
Oh yeah, she would have been awesome.
Is she not fucking perfect for it? Like, and I love Alicia Vikander. And the moment that her movie came out, I was like, okay, no, that's our Lara now. And I was very perturbed at the fact that they apparently decided, no, we're going to go with Sophie Turner now. Nothing against Sophie Turner, but
this was between the Angelina Jolie ones and the new one. So my guess is if anyone ever was like, time for a Tomb Raider movie, the studios were like, we already have that in Underworld, basically. Like it probably was her working against her own role because these movies were successful enough. And also Resident Evil, like wouldn't be surprised if they're like, we had that. We have these other franchises right now that, but yeah, totally. Now that you mentioned
Ships
that,
in the night.
like surprised that we didn't even get like an animated thing with her voicing it because she's got a distinctive voice that would have worked too. So yeah. Let's wrap this the fuck up, Dave.
There are other worlds in these, and one of them has Kate Beckinsale in a blue top and dual-wielding pistols at a T-Rex.
Yep. But not this one. This is an underworld, not another world.
I think we've established that this is the worst reality.
Yes. Listeners, if you watched this and had a different reaction, let us know. eerieinternational@gmail.com. Feel free to send in some longer form thoughts. If not, if you have short thoughts, that's fine too. Feel free to hit us up on social media and all of the places that we mentioned at the top of the show. Next week, not sure what we're doing yet. We've talked about a few different things with Andi before the break, but we haven't settled on a particular film yet. So give us a follow over on, and you know what, at this point, Instagram's probably the best bet. I think that's the one that stays the most updated.
Yeah, I actually need to log on to the other place and delete all of my accounts, and we're probably going to delete the Eerie one while I'm up there. I'll check with Andi to make sure he's of the same mind, but I feel like he'd probably be the first one to suggest it.
Yeah, so follow us on Instagram. Eerie International is the account name, and we'll post on there as soon as we know what the topic will be. In the meantime, stay safe out there, keep watching horror movies, and we will see you next week.